The Royal Rumble is a busy one here on the Good Mike War Commentaries YouTube channel. What's up, guys? It's been a minute. My God, I haven't seen you guys since last Sunday when we did our Vault Watch Along, and I had a whole midweek of deadness there. Very busy at work, lots of stuff going on, and wasn't able to come back up here until this weekend to really start heading down the road to the Royal Rumble hard and fast. And we got a big podcast scheduled today, as well as a Saturday night's main event watch along tonight. So that's right, we're going to do a doubleheader today, and Saturday night's main event goes live in 3 hours, so we are going to try to get this podcast done within that time frame so we can shut this off and then regroup and come back and watch Saturday night's main event together and then stick around for a short recap after the show. That's the plan today, so it's going to be a big one, and today's podcast has a lot going on because we have to talk about WWE Unreal Season 2, which dropped this week. I was able to watch all 5 episodes, and I'm going to give you my general opinion of Season 2. We'll go through it bit by bit, episode by episode, and talk a little bit about the highs and lows there. And we also have a ton of wrestling news to get into. We're going to open up with the man you see on the screen right there, The Rock, apparently being offered a historic record-setting deal to wrestle his final match in Saudi Arabia next year at WrestleMania 43. We'll talk about that. And we have a ton of comings and goings. We're going to talk about Powerhouse Hobbs to WWE and what his name will be. We're going to talk about the possibility of Evil jumping ship from New Japan, heading over to WWE as well. We got the former Baron Corbin, Bishop Dyer. We're working a dark match in AEW. Also, we're going to talk about that whole Trey Miguel fiasco as well. We're going to touch on last night's SmackDown. Not a very good show, but we at least have to touch on it. We're going to talk about this past week's Raw in Belfast as well, and we'll talk about Wednesday's Dynamite. I think Wednesday's Dynamite and last night's SmackDown, not a whole lot going on there, but we will touch on those shows a little bit. We're also going to talk about the numbers for TNA Impact as well, their debut show, which kind of shit the bed last week, but they did bounce back with a solid pay-per-view and a good Thursday Night Impact this week from what I understand. So we'll see if they can bounce back from some of that. And right at the end of the podcast here, right before we sign off, I will give you very quick predictions to tonight's Saturday night's main event. We now have 4 matches. One additional match got added on last night on SmackDown. We're going to get AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura tonight. So we've got 4 matches on tap for Saturday night's main event, and I'm excited about having a Saturday off and a Sunday off. Look at me with a real human weekend and shit. So I'm going to be hanging out with you guys a lot in the next 48 hours. As a matter of fact, you're going to be seeing me a lot all week long, and I will talk about that in just a minute. But I'm not going to be wasting a whole lot of time today because there's a lot to get into, and I want to give you guys a little bit of a breather between this podcast and Saturday night's main event. So we will get down to business here in just a second. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat real quick, and then we will get into what to expect from me this weekend and the rest of the week heading into next weekend's Royal Rumble pay-per-view, which is 1 week from today, by the way, in Saudi Arabia. So we're going to be previewing that, and I'll let you know what the plans are here on the channel. But before I do that, I just want to say hello to some friends. Let me start with Off Leather Wings, who dropped $10 in before we went live. Thank you so much for that $9.99, my friend. Thank you, Greg, for reacting to Steen versus Generico last week. I spent last week at Disney World with my girlfriend for my 30th birthday. Nice. Happy birthday, dude. 30. Wow. 30 is a great age. I turned 30 in 2007. Best year of my life. Really was. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you had a good time at Disney World, and I'm glad you're back. Just got back home yesterday and watched your reaction to it. That was a fun one. I even put up a YouTube short of the finish of that as well because I really enjoyed watching that Ring of Honor war between Kevin Steen and El Generico. Good stuff last week. Sorry you missed it live, though, but I'm glad you did get a chance to check it out, and thank you for recommending that match because it was a good one. Good to see Handsome Steve. That makes 2 of us. We got Melissa in the house as well. We got Gilbert, Nick Musser, Ryan Adams, my boy, Mike Rouse, Isaac, David Brown, Zane G. What's up? Ken Webb is here. WOC. Want to shout out Tom Talks Rubbish. Please go visit Tom's YouTube channel. He does good work over there. Good to see you, my friend. Paul Carpenter, Mohammed. We got Colin Wright in here. Sonic Plays, Paul Hanley, The Real, DJG, Rodrigo, Michael Kumo. Anybody else saying hello this lovely Saturday afternoon? Happy you're here. Thanks for being here. Do me a favor, smash Mr. Thumbs Up button. Memberships are open. Please subscribe. Super chats are open as well. We're going to get into all that stuff today and tonight for Saturday's main event, and tomorrow and Tuesday and Saturday, which, in case that confuses you, let me remind you what we got going on tonight. So tonight it is, after this podcast is done, we're going to regroup probably just take a 20 or 30 minute break, and we are going to be back to watch Saturday night's main event together. I'm going to do a watch along of this show tonight. I thought it would be fun just to do something different, kick back on a Saturday night and watch this one with you guys. And then we'll stick around and do a quick recap of the show. And like I said, at the very end of this podcast, I'm going to give you my predictions to all 4 of the matches on tap tonight. And I feel as if they're pretty easy to predict. So we will see how it all goes. And then tomorrow, it is week number, 4 of our WWE Vault Watch-a-thons, watch-alongs. And this one is a pretty stacked lineup. We have 8 matches on tap for tomorrow. We're going to go live at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, excuse me. We are going to be going head-to-head with the back end of, I think, either the AFC or the NFC Championship game. I forget which one comes first tomorrow, but tomorrow is Championship Sunday, so we will be going head-to-head with probably the second half of that, but hey, it's Sunday, it's watch-along day, and that's what we do. So we've got DDP versus Randy Savage from Spring Stampede. We've got the Ultimate Warrior versus Andre the Giant from Saturday night's main event. We've got John Cena and Randy Orton from Breaking Point 09, I Quit match. We've got the 2018 Women's Elimination Chamber match. Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano in a 2 out of 3 falls war at NXT TakeOver New York in 2019. Rock and Undertaker versus Edge and Christian from Raw, and Medusa versus Luna Vachon from Puerto Rico. So those are the 8 matches on tap for tomorrow. That's going to be fun. And then we are going to regroup again on Tuesday and come up at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on Tuesday and predict the Royal Rumble. We're also going to review whatever we see transpire on Raw on Monday. And then 1 week from today, that's right, I'm getting up early, and we're going to be doing a Royal Rumble watch-along from Saudi Arabia. So I live here in California. For me, the show begins at 11 a.m., which is not too bad. It's not super early or anything like that, so I can get my ass up and be camera ready. Just got to make sure my hair and makeup is done in time for that, and it's going to be an a.m. watch-along. I'm not sure if I've ever gone live in the AM before here on the channel. So that's going to be 1 week from today. We're going to watch the Royal Rumble, and then we will, as usual, stick around and review that as well. So big week coming up here. Lots of videos, lots of streams, all sorts of stuff happening, and I am ready for it. Hopefully you guys are as well. That does it now for the pleasantries. We got to get down to business here, and I think we need to start with the story about The Rock, because I think it's interesting. Now, The Rock, his name is always coming up ever since he returned a couple of years ago and became the final boss, and he's been a big part of everything, or at least the last couple of WrestleManias. Well, I guess not the last one, but the one before that. We're always wondering when the next time we're going to see The Rock, and if we have, in fact, seen him wrestle his last match. Now, of course, he was supposed to wrestle Roman Reigns back at WrestleMania 40, but then everything going on with Cody and that whole situation, it got changed. Cody wound up finishing his story at WrestleMania 40, which put The Rock in a tag team match on night 1, and that was the last time we have seen him in the ring. Of course, he beat Cody Rhodes in the finish of that match, and then Cody turned around and won the title the next night. Now, we've not seen The Rock in the ring since then. There's been a lot of speculation that WWE is going to try to get that Roman Reigns and Rock match done, but the more years go by, the older The Rock gets, and, just how much longer is this window going to stay open for him? And as far as I was concerned, I didn't ever need to see The Rock in the ring again. I don't care if he ever wrestles again. I just don't care. Not interested. I'm very uncomfortable with him in this position of board member and TKO and all that weirdness that went on this past year at WrestleMania with him being a part of John Cena's heel turn, only to disappear, and he tends to kind of just walk away when he doesn't get things creatively his way, and I just don't like his presence there, at least being involved creatively or on TV, because whenever he's there, it seems like he fucks things up, and his schedule and his desires and his wants and his needs tend to really gum up the works, and if it was up to me, I would just keep him out of everything altogether. But then again, he is The Rock, and having one final match is something that I'm sure every fan, including myself, would appreciate a little bit of closure on, but at the same time, I don't really need it. Well, sounds like if there is going to be a final match for The Rock, if he is going to step back into the ring one more time or have any sort of a WrestleMania program or match at all, It's going to come next year, not this year, in Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania 43. And apparently Saudi Arabia is prepared to make this historic offer to The Rock, this independent offer from them. This is not going to be WWE's money paying him, apparently. This is going to come straight from Saudi Arabia, where they're going to lay down an obscene amount of money for him to wrestle his last match in Saudi Arabia. And that's been something that's been on our radar. You know, we thought that if The Rock is ever going to have a final match, or if he is going to get back in the ring, we know now that we have that Saudi Arabia WrestleMania on the calendar for 2027. So any sort of big, major, monumental return or big time money match is probably going to happen there. So The Rock's final match being in Saudi Arabia next year can absolutely see that happen. And I would actually prefer it be over there than here in the States. I would rather have The Rock take up that spot over there than being a part of it over here creatively, where they're trying to do an LA or a San Francisco or a Vegas or a New Orleans WrestleMania, and Rock's presence there is bumping the world title to a lesser important match or anything like that. It just makes it easier of a pill to swallow, I guess, if it happens in Saudi Arabia. I can't explain it. So if they want to fuck up a Saudi Mania, I don't care. Just don't fuck up the ones here. So Rock being in the ring next year, wrestling his final match in Saudi Arabia at WrestleMania 43, I don't really see any roadblocks that would stand in his way at this point, especially if we're talking about the money that we're talking here. It sounds like money is going to talk in this situation. And even if The Rock felt like in his head he was done wrestling, it's going to be hard to ignore an offer like that. So I kind of feel like that's likely. I feel like that's going to happen. And if they do frame it as like a retirement match for The Rock, I know we've had a lot of retirements lately. We could have one week from tonight at the Royal Rumble with AJ and Gunther, which we'll talk about later. But if it's framed as a retirement match for The Rock, he can have a nice send-off. He can work with his cousin. And, Roman Reigns, I would assume, would beat him. But shit, you never know. And that would be that. So we'll wait and see how this develops. With The Rock, things tend to happen at the last minute. So we might not know anything about whether or not this is a possibility until like 1 year from now, until we get into January of next year. And then all of a sudden, boom, The Rock materializes. He's here. He sets up something with Roman at the Rumble or wherever. And then we're off to the races for WrestleMania. We'll have to see how that goes. But also, it should be noted that the Smashing Machine, The Rock did not get a Oscar nomination for the Smashing Machine. I feel like the hope was that he would. Now, the Smashing Machine did receive a nomination for the movie itself, received one, I think, for like Best Makeup or some shit like that, but The Rock did not get any sort of Best Actor nomination at all for the Oscars, and I think, he snubbed on the Golden Globes too, so that's kind of done. So there's no worry there about him being an Oscar award-winning actor now who's going to get back in the ring. No worry about that. And so Rock coming back and working next year at age 56 or 5 or whatever the fuck he's going to be, yeah, I could see it happening, and I'm perfectly fine if it does. So if Saudi wants to throw a ton of money at The Rock, great. I can see positives in that, even though it's like, oh, brother. But, one thing to remember is that most likely, well, I wouldn't say most likely. I'm going to assume it's not going to be for the championship, but it might. Maybe The Rock wins the title next year. Maybe they do what they did in 2013, right? WrestleMania 29. Rock wins the title at the Rumble, drops it to Cena. So maybe Rock beats somebody at the Royal Rumble for the title and then defends it against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, but I don't really think that's necessary. I think you can just do a standalone attraction match with The Rock and Roman Reigns. You don't need the belt involved at all. So if that's the case, then that takes Roman out of the title picture, which means both of your world titles will be Roman Reigns free next year at WrestleMania, which also means if Roman is going to win the title this year, he might drop it before then. Because if he's champion going into WrestleMania next year and The Rock is going to face him, how is that going to work? Rock's going to have to win the Rumble or the Chamber, and I don't really see that happening. So, I suppose Roman could defend against The Rock next year at WrestleMania, but I feel like no belt is really necessary for that. But it's way too early. It's 15 months away to start talking about if a belt's going to be on the line or whatever. But sounds like Saudi is really going to throw a lot of money at The Rock, and if it doesn't come to be, if Rock doesn't work it, I'm wondering why not? Why would you leave all that money on the table? What's your reasoning behind, especially if they're like, hey, we'll pay you $50 million to wrestle for 13 minutes. I'll do it. I don't care how old I am. If I'm 90, I'll do it. So I feel like that's a pretty good possibility. We're going to see The Rock next year at WrestleMania 43, but let's hope that the rumors of Rock being off TV for 2026 are true. We don't need him here right now. There's a lot going on. We got plenty of stuff to keep us occupied. Talent is strong. NXT call-ups are doing really well right now. Everything seems to be going talent-wise in WWE pretty good to where they're not desperate for some name to come in and save the day. So if The Rock is not really present at all this year, good. Let him come back next year, right at the beginning of the year, set up his little shit with Roman or whoever, whatever he's going to do, and then just be done with it. Retirement match. Thank you for everything, Rock. And let's move on with our wrestling lives, shall we? So we'll see how that all goes. But The Rock apparently is going to be offered a ton of money to get in the ring. And I wouldn't be surprised if Saudi maybe tries to throw some money at Steve. Let's get Austin and Rock together next year. Not necessarily in a match, but maybe they can interact. Austin can be a part of his final match or something. Maybe he can bring everybody back. Maybe like Austin and John Cena. Not to wrestle because John Cena's retired, but we know we're going to see John Cena again. He signed an ambassador deal. He's going to be WWE adjacent here for the next several years. So if he wants to turn up and show up and be a part of Rock's finale, that would be fun. But again, is The Rock the type of guy that would want all those extra players involved in his retirement? He might not. So it just depends. But they could have some fun with that next year. We've got a Powerhouse Hobbs update. So, of course, we have heard that Powerhouse Hobbs was leaving AEW, and even prior to his contract coming up, there was rumors that WWE was interested in him. Well, his contract did expire last week or week before, whatever. He dropped the trios titles on his way out the door, and it was confirmed this week that he has, in fact, signed with WWE. So, no surprise there. We were expecting Hobbs to come in, and we were also wondering what his name is going to be. Well, Bodyslam.net apparently has found out, and it's going to be Royce Keys. Royce Keys. Now, WWE, there's a lot of wrestling names that I hate. The biggest ones that I hate is Braun Breaker, probably the stupidest name in the history of the wrestling business. Never been a fan of Dolph Ziggler, never been a fan of Roman Reigns, or any sort of name like that. Just hate them. But WWE also allows the wrestlers to help decide their name. People always tell me whenever I complain about Braun Breaker's name, he picked it. I don't give a shit. I don't care who picked it. Just because he picked it doesn't make it a good name. It's still a shitty name. So I'm happy that WWE at least allows the wrestlers to try to select their name or be a part of that process so they can draw from their own personal experiences or family. And we see that a lot. A lot of wrestlers name themselves after a parent, a grandparent, a kid, a son, a daughter, something like that. Dolph Ziggler, I think Dolph was like his grandfather's name, and I can't remember why. Breaker named himself that. But apparently Hobbs is one of Hobbs's sons. I don't know how many sons he has, but apparently one of them is named Royce. So he's named himself, I think, after his son. I don't know where the Keys comes from. Maybe his favorite singer is Alicia Keys, Royce Keys, no idea. So Royce Keys apparently is going to be Hobbs's new name. Why not Royce Hobbs? I think his real last name is Hobson, like Hobson. So I just don't know. Hobbs, I would have kept him Hobbs, at least try to keep something familiar with him. But he's going to get a full WWE name, so WWE is going to own that, which means if he leaves WWE, he's going to have to change his name again. So he's going to be Hobbs, or he's going to be Will Hobbs or Powerhouse Hobbs outside of WWE, and he's going to be Royce Keys inside of WWE. So I kind of wish they would have kept at least the Hobbs part, but why am I complaining? Who cares? I'm just excited to see him come in. I think he's going to do well. And we'll see what kind of presentation he has, what kind of music he has, and what exactly they do with him. And if he goes to NXT, he's 35 years old. So if he's in NXT, you don't want to be hanging around there too long, or if he comes straight to the main roster. Now, where do we see Hobbs debut? Now, if he turns up in NXT, it doesn't really matter. He'll just show up on TV somewhere, so who cares? But if he comes to the main roster, two big possibilities. Number one, the Royal Rumble. Obviously, showing up in the Royal Rumble would be great. But also, we got a whodunit going on SmackDown right now, right? Because Drew McIntyre is adamant. Said in his promo last night, I think he said, I did not kick Jacob's teeth down his throat. I did not attack Jacob Fatu. I'm not the one responsible for him being knocked out of action for a couple of months. It wasn't me. If it was me, I'd be out here bragging about it. It wasn't me. So I feel like it wasn't Drew. You know, people are saying, oh, maybe it's Cody. I don't think it's time for Cody to turn heel. There's a lot of people it could be who are currently in the company, but what if Hobbs or Royce is the one who attacked Jacob? Maybe that's a good spot for him to be in. But when you're going to do a complete name change with him, I feel like you got to maybe introduce him. You know, you could do a lot of ways. You could just come out right at the Rumble, boom. You know, Chris Jericho is another name. Jericho could show up at the Rumble. Jericho could be the one to attack Fatu, although that would be a suicide mission for Jericho if he was the one to attack Jacob Fatu. Jericho, do you want to die? Do you want to die? Because you're going to die now. So I don't think it's Jericho, but you already got Jericho coming in as well. So you might want to balance, you know, one of them with a Rumble return and do another one like video packages. So since we all know who Jericho is, maybe he comes back at the Rumble, and maybe with Hobbs, they run some vignettes for him before his debut. I don't know. I don't know the right and wrong answer to that, but we will see. I am hoping personally that he bypasses NXT. You know, if he went there and spent a month in there, no big deal. I'm not going to freak out. NXT just got rated, so they could use some names. They could use some people. So Hobbs stopping there first, I'm not going to be the fan. I'm not, no, it's fine. I don't care. Go to NXT, no big deal. I don't think he needs to, but if he does, I'm not going to shit my pants. It's fine. So go to NXT. Get introduced to the WWE way down there. Say hi to all your AEW friends who are there. You got your Starkses and your Ethans, and you got a lot of people on the main roster who you're going to know as well. So if he goes to NXT, fine. Just don't stay there forever. I'm talking 60 days max. Get that guy up to the main roster. We will see. I'm excited to see Hobbs or Royce Keys in WWE. I think he's going to do great. Like I said, lots of comings and goings right now. Hobbs is a coming. We also have a going. Ciampa is going. Of course, he is leaving WWE. We heard about this last week. He posted a lengthy statement on social media thanking the WWE and fans. And his contract is either already up or is about to be up, but he is not renewing and he is leaving. He's also filed trademarks for Psycho Killer and Psycho King, and he's rumored to be headed to New Japan, which I think is smart because, you know, if he just went straight to AEW, as great as Ciampa is, you know, there's just a lot of good talent like Ciampa over there already. And AEW does have a lost in the shuffle problem over there. And I think it might be smart for him to go to New Japan. I think he'd have more opportunities there because they've got a kind of depleted roster as well. They got some legends retiring. They got Evil leaving, although Evil's not a huge loss, but still. I think they could use him. So going to New Japan would be great, and that would kind of get him a foot in already in AEW and probably give us a chance to see him in AEW. So Ciampa going to Japan sounds like the plan. Hopefully he's okay moving to Japan and living over there for an extended period of time. Well, I guess you don't have to technically live over there, but you're going to be spending a lot of time over there if you're going to be working in New Japan. So all the best to Tommaso Ciampa. You know, they were set to, I guess, feud DIY with... what's it called? Frazier and what's his dick? What are they called? Why can't I think of their names? The Masked Feller and Frazier. Why can't I think of what their names are? Frazier and that guy. So anyway, I think they were about to set up a feud there, but then Ciampa bounced. So he's gone. And so now Gargano's over there doing the deal by himself with those guys. Why can't I think? I'm thinking of Commander and El Clone. What the fuck is... Oh, Fraxium. Okay, I could not think of what Axiom's name was. Fraxium. So it looked like Ciampa and Gargano were going to start feuding with Fraxium, but then Ciampa leaves and Gargano's stuck there doing it all by himself with his wife Candice by his side. So all the best to Tommaso Ciampa. Really like him. Fellow Baldy. We all kind of have each other's backs. And all the best to Tommaso in your future endeavors. Sorry to see you go, but excited to see where you land. In another coming, so we had Hobbs coming, Ciampa going, and now another possible coming, Evil. rumored to be coming to WWE. Now, it was earlier on this month, very beginning of the month. I remember Fightful Select had reported that he was looking for opportunities elsewhere. And it's now believed that he's headed to WWE, which would track because we have heard that Tony Khan isn't a huge fan of Evil. Of course, he had that brief run with the New Japan or with the IWGP title, which most people didn't like. And I think WWE would be a much better place for him than AEW because WWE can turn him into a character and they can, with, their marketing can, maybe accentuate positives and hide weaknesses. I don't know, where in AEW, he would just be evil. He would just be there existing and there'd be no time or energy put into him and his character and his look and how they're going to invest in this. And that's one kind of difference between WWE and AEW and something that I wish Tony Khan was better at. I feel like WWE, as gross as they can be sometimes, and as infuriating as they can be, I feel like they do a better job of treating their talent like investments. We're paying you. You are, your character and your likeness is our intellectual property. This is an investment that we want to mold and create and try to turn into more dollars. And they treat every star like that. Every star gets merchandise and gets theme music, and they talk about your presentation and who you're going to be and your name and what they're going to do. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes guys are complete fucking flops. Some guys are fumbled or misused, or maybe they didn't have the execution properly right. Bottom line is they try, and it doesn't always work. And a lot of times WWE can be idiots in certain situations, but they do try, and they treat talent like an investment. What can we get out of you? Where Tony Khan just signs guys, have them out there in great matches. Some guys get over, some guys don't. Some people are elevated, but some guys stay right where they are for years. And I don't feel like he has that individual investment mentality in each one of his stars. He can secure them, he can sign them to big deals, and the top stars are doing top star things, but everybody else, I just wish there was a little more AEW and WWE and a little more WWE and AEW, in terms of some of the things that they do, focusing on characters, making sure that they have TV time, and that if they're going to have this person on the roster and they're going to be paying them, try to use them as best as they can. And sometimes Tony Khan feels like he forgets about people. So I'm not saying Tony Khan needs a writer's room with a Road Dogg and a Bruce Pritchard next to him. No, I'm just saying I don't know what the infrastructure is behind the scenes. I just hope Tony Khan's got a circle of people that kind of bring this type of shit up to him. I don't know. But I feel like Evil is one of those stars. We talk about this all the time when somebody is jumping, or you get a free agent coming up, and how many times I've said, and I've had multiple opinions. Sometimes a free agent, I'm like, oh, they got to go to AEW. That's the better spot for them. And then other times it's WWE. This is a case where it's WWE. I feel like Evil, if he's going to go anywhere, he's got the best chance to find some success or momentum in WWE. That does not mean he's going to win a ton of championships over there or anything like that. I just feel like he'll be in a better environment to succeed in WWE, where in AEW, I don't know what the fuck he would do there. So we will see. So Evil possibly coming to WWE. We'll find out if he turns up or not. Maybe he shows up at the Rumble, although I don't know if the WWE audience would really react to him. I don't know if Saudi Arabia would even fucking know who he is. So maybe he might be more of a vignette guy. Jericho and Hobbs, you could probably blast right out there. Evil might be a vignette guy before he debuts, something like that. And plus, if Evil goes to WWE, he's going to get a name change as well. So start eyeballing. If you're the type of person that follows WWE trademark filings, keep your eye on that. If they have some crazy sounding name being filed for a trademark soon, it could be for him. So keep a lookout for that. So we got comings and goings and comings, and now we have a going and a coming. My God, this Trey Miguel situation is a mess. So it was reported that AEW had hired the Rascals. And we talked about this last week or whenever it was, that the Rascals were coming in. And I even said they've hired all four of them. And then I watched Collision I guess it was last week. And then I watch Collision and I see the debut and there's only 3 of them. And because I don't watch a ton of TNA and, and seen a ton of the Rascals work, I started thinking that I Mandela affected myself. When they appeared on Collision, they stuck their 3 heads through the door, like sideways like that. And I'm like, was there not 4 of them? And I started thinking that I was the one that was wrong. I'm like, ugh. I told my podcast audience today that AEW signed all 4 of them, and I sound like an idiot because apparently it's only 3. But I would have sworn there was 4. Yeah, there was 4. The 4th one's Trey Miguel. So he was hired by AEW to come in with the Rascals, and then promptly before his debut, before they even debuted on Collision, he was fired. He was let go before he even made it to TV. Why was he let go? Apparently, this was from higher up. This wasn't a Tony Khan or anybody in AEW's call. This came from Warner Brothers Discovery, who didn't want him on TV because of past homophobic comments that he made on social media like 5 years ago, which has been the case with the Briscoes, as we know. It took a lot of work to get, Mark Briscoe on TV, after what some of the comments that they made and everything. And it sounds like this was kind of known because Tony Khan tried to hire him back in 2020, but they weren't going to allow him. And so I guess nothing has changed. So basically, here's what Fightful Select had to say about this situation. Trey Miguel gets hired and then gets immediately fired. And the word, according to Fightful Select, and I quote, the word relayed to Miguel is that it was a decision above AEW, heavily implied to be a Warner Brothers Discovery decision. To be very specific, we were told it was in relation to a post that Miguel made in 2020 that was homophobic in nature, which I'll read to you in a second, of which he immediately apologized for. The reaction inside AEW was one of frustration, as Miguel and the Rascals have good relationships in the company. There were a number of wrestlers who felt like there were standards applied to WWE talent that don't apply to other personalities who have appeared on WBD properties. There were countless examples provided of prominently featured WBD names that had made controversial comments and weren't thrown off the air or prevented from getting deals. Fightful has reached out to a number of contacts on and off the record, one of which replied, "I can't speak to the validity of the rumors, but I can't say I agree the decision if true. If it were an unhealthy pattern of behavior, that's cause for alarm, but that does not seem to be the case here." And it was Meltzer who said that TK tried to hire him in 2020, but he wasn't able to. Or he wasn't, Warner Brothers did not want him on television. So I guess if AEW hires somebody, you've got execs in Warner Brothers Discovery who vet these people and look at their social media histories and find out if they want this type of person on their TV network, I guess, is what they are doing. And if they pass down some sort of, ruling, hey, this person can't be there, I guess Tony Khan's hands are tied. So that does raise some questions that Tony Khan can't veto this or can't go to bat for him or say, hey, look, it's not like this is this guy, this is who he is. It's not like this is his entire personality. You haven't seen post after post after post like this for the last 5 years on social media. This was a post very, very similar, to what we saw with the Briscoes. And there was a lot of immediate remorse there. And we've talked about this before. I think everything needs to be, whenever a situation like this happens, there shouldn't just be, oh, you should do this or you should do that. Every situation is going to be different. It really should be a case-by-case basis. And in the case of Trey Miguel, I dug up the tweet that apparently, or I'm sorry, not a tweet. This was a Facebook post. It was actually a Facebook response to a troll who was shitting on him or trolling Trey Miguel or something, and he responded with some homophobic shit. And here is the post that this appears to be about. So it was March of 2020. Some asshole is trolling Trey Miguel, and he responds with this, and I quote, "Obviously, you're gay." Such a funny 3 words. Obviously, you're gay. Most people, as unattractive as you, become gay, which is not true. I know a hell of a lot of handsome gay dudes. Become gay out of fear of rejection from the opposite sex. So you find comfort, ability, and familiarity in the same sex and end up matching someone who's the same as you. Gay. Because this is actually kind of funny, because there's no other fucking options, you ugly bitch. So that's the response he made. Of course, I think this is just immaturity. That's all that is, because you think about when you were a kid. Remember, anything you didn't like as a kid was gay. I don't want to do that. It's gay. I always say that as a joke around the house. Like if Elizabeth says, hey, do you want to have pizza tonight? No, pizza's gay. Like it just to be funny, because we remember how silly that was when we used to talk like that. When you were a kid, the biggest insult when I was on the school bus, riding to school in the 5th grade on the yellow fella, if some kid called you gay, it's just like the worst thing. If somebody in the chat says, you look gay, I'm like, maybe I am. I fucking care. What the fuck? I mean, I'm not, but if I was, like, who cares? Like, what the fuck? So it's just a matter of maturity, So men still to this day, a lot of grown men, a lot of men with not a lot of friends and just not much of a life, still spam that insult. It's still their go-to. Call them gay, call them a fag, whatever. It's still like kind of their go-to. And it's really prominent, and you guys know this, you see it in society, it's really prominent amongst younger people. A young man between 15 and 25 is probably going to say fag a lot, especially if they're an asshole. If they're well educated, or living near a university, or have nice parents and they vote and they give to charity, they're probably not going to be saying that word. But if they're going to church, they probably are. And it's very common in like young men, young men full of P and V. And this was his response to a troll. He could have been way more intelligent about it. He could have found a more meaningful way to respond to a troll, because this troll baited him into a response that got him fired from a job 5 years later. Guess what, Trey Miguel? The troll won. And that's why you got to be careful about what you say and shit. And you can't be stupid. Now, with that being said, as stupid and ignorant as that response from him was, you can't just cancel people for the rest of their lives over something. If Trey Miguel has always been this way, and he's had several hundred posts of the same nature ever since March of 2020, fuck him and fuck his career. Don't want anything to do with him. He shouldn't be on TV. Blackball him from pro wrestling. You're getting no arguments out of me. But it's not. He's not doing that. He had immediate remorse. The same day, I believe, posted a lengthy statement about how I'm sorry. I just got ahead of myself, said some things I shouldn't have. I'm embarrassed. That's not who I am. I promise I'm going to do better. Now, apparently, he also had some anti-Semitic shit to say to David Starr that has nothing to do with the Warner Brothers firing, but apparently there's some stuff that exists there. But David Starr, as we know, is a scumbag, so who cares there? Who cares about David Starr? So he's made a couple of comments that he regrets. Have you guys ever made a comment that you regret? I bet you have. Have I ever made a comment that I regret? Holy fuck. I am so happy that Twitter did not exist when I was 15 years old, because I would want to get a DeLorean, go back in time, and slap the shit out of myself repeatedly. So when it comes to saying something stupid, homophobic, or, even depends, racism, there's a line. Like I said, it's a case-by-case basis. It depends on how severe what you're saying is. But if you show true remorse and you really try to better yourself and you try to learn from your mistakes, that's what life is all about. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't fuck up a bunch of times and learn from those fuck ups. And then great, that's just what life is all about. We all go through that, so when you learn from your mistakes, that's really what it is all about. That's what life is all about. But unfortunately, in the information age and social media, everything is on permanent record. Nothing is ever truly deleted. So if you make some sort of a comment, it is going to resurface. And if they want to search you and search out your name and see some of the things that you've said and done and what your behavior and personality is like, they got a lot of stuff to look at in terms of social media. And now that we're going on 20 plus years now of, social media kind of being a thing, or close to 20 years, you've got a lot of old comments. You got people who were on Facebook when they were 11, they're 31 now, they probably feel like an idiot for some of the shit they said. back then. So it just depends. It just depends on what the situation is, what you said, whether or not you still are like that, and if you learn from your mistake. And Trey Miguel, this seems to be a situation where he said something stupid, felt bad, and this was a half decade ago. Oh, well, no, more than that now. It's almost 6 years ago that he said this, and hasn't really shown any sort of pattern of that behavior since. I think they should have let it go. You know, I feel like he should have been allowed in the company. It's silly. And of course, what people are going to immediately do, and what the Fightful Select report pointed out, is that people in the company, people in AEW, are saying, wait a second, look at this guy, and this guy, who we know did all these things. They're here. Like, what the fuck? What makes it, like, for example, I'll use Twitter as an example. I'm almost done. I got less than 24 hours. I'm currently serving a 7-day Twitter jail sentence. I got put in Twitter jail for a week for telling a white supremacist to eat a dick, which I am not sorry about. And so I get suspended for that. I told him to eat a dick. They suspend me for a week. But thank God, nude AI pics of celebrities are still okay on Twitter. You know, like, what the fuck what sense does that make? You get some dipshit, you know, putting Scarlett Johansson in a bikini, that's fine. I tell a white supremacist to eat a dick, I'm fired. So it's a Trey Miguel situation right here on Twitter. Like, how is that okay? But this is not, you know? So with Miguel, it's a shame. Normally I would hope that this would get resolved, because when you read about this and you see what he said and you got the fan response now, I was hoping that this would get worked out. I was hoping that the more people spoke up for him, maybe Tony Khan went to bat for him, Warner Brothers Discovery, you know, maybe changed their position or reconsidered their position, and they let him back into the company. That's what I was hoping would happen. But it's not, because Trey Miguel showed up on Impact on Thursday night, their second show on AMC. He returned to the company. And after everything went down with AEW, he posted on social media that he's taking a break, talked about what an emotionally draining week it was for him, how stressful and hard it was on him and his family to learn that he's got this great job in AEW, only for it to be snatched away from him because of a social media post from 6 years ago that he immediately apologized for. That's got to be so difficult to swallow. You know, thinking about that one post from 6 years ago, and somebody his age, 6 years ago, you're a completely different person. It's like a fourth of your life. So all that time ago, he says it, and it comes back to bite him 6 years later and costs him a job in the second biggest wrestling promotion in the world. Yikes. That's awful. And I feel like if he would have waited enough time, they might have been able to work it out. But now he's in TNA. Now, I guess he's re-signed with them, but he won, the Feast or Famine, one of the briefcases, and so I guess if you open it, it could be a pink slip, so he could still be fired from TNA. So maybe they brought him in as a favor. Hey, we'll use you, and then if AEW wants to work it out with you, we'll let you go. I'm hoping that would be the case. But props to TNA for at least saying, hey, look, we got your back. And this guy was pretty down in the dumps. He even said he was going to be taking a break from wrestling because of the mental trauma that he underwent for that whole week of that roller coaster ride of a week he had. And then TNA stepped up, said, no, come on in. And so just when he was about to step away from wrestling, he's right back in on cable TV. So good for him. But it's a shame that can't work out in AEW because the Rascals are fun. And I wish he would have been able to come in. It's a shame. It's a shame. But anyway, Trey Miguel is back. Oh, I did not know Trey Miguel is Alicia Atu's former boyfriend. Oh, wow. Good for him. Maybe it was an MJF call. Let's hope not. You know, let's hope that isn't the guy. I mean, they're married now. It wouldn't be that big of a deal at this point. But it's just unfortunate. You hate to hear about that stuff. And even though you feel like he should be held accountable for saying something so unbelievably fucking stupid, this was now 6 years ago and he feels really bad about it, and he felt bad about it right after he said it. Doesn't make it okay, but the fact that he showed remorse, the fact that he didn't quadruple down like so many little bitch boy men do. The dumber they are, the more they get called out for it, the more they quadruple down on it. It just makes, let's just be dumber. It's what MAGA does. Constantly call them stupid because they are. They just said, well, let's just be as dumb as fucking possible. Like, they like that. To them, it's winning. You know, when they're dumber, they're winning, you know? And so you're not seeing that from him. You know, he doesn't have this personality of just being a dick. You know, you're not seeing social media posts of people screenshotting his tweets or putting up videos of his streams where he's screaming and yelling out racial and homophobic shit and stuff. You know, he's not like that. So it's just a mistake. It's just a mistake. And in this case, maybe some cases, maybe there's a post one would make on social media 6 years ago that would be so bad that it would blacklist you forever, you know, but this doesn't appear to be one of them. It was a stupid thing to say, but I could never want to completely annihilate someone's livelihood for a mistake the size of the one that he made. The punishment is not fitting the crime to me. You know, I mean, in one way, it does send a message. I mean, if you want to work for AEW, you better fucking make sure you got no skeletons in your social media closet. If you get signed by AEW, they're going to be looking at your history. You know, so if you got anything bad in there, go start deleting that shit now if you can, unless people have already saved it and it's too late. But at least it sends a message. We don't want any of that shit on our networks or people who have that type of reputation, I guess, but still, unfortunate. All the best to Trey Miguel, and we will see if maybe something gets worked out in the future with AEW. Speaking of AEW, Baron Corbin, Bishop Dyer, the former Baron Corbin, he wrestled a dark match on Dynamite this past Wednesday. Dynamite was in Orlando, and Bishop was there in town visiting friends, specifically Billy Gunn and The Big Show. Now, Bishop, I think, went on Jonathan Coachman's show or something. He explained his experience there and that he was just there to hang out. He was just there to hang out with The Big Show. Went and picked him up at the airport, apparently. Or no, I think he went... No, Big Show already lives there. I forgot what the fuck happened. He was there visiting Big Show anyway. And apparently it was Billy Gunn who was able to get Bishop working a match approved by Tony Khan, and says that Tony Khan told him that he liked the match, but he didn't really have much of a conversation with Tony Khan beyond that. And this was basically just a one-off, just a dark match, no discussion of a contract or anything like that. He was just there visiting, and they put him in the ring and let him work a dark match. So we will see if this kind of gets his foot in the door, or maybe this leads to some sort of future signing. I think he's currently in MLW at the current time, I think, right? So he worked a dark match in AEW. That's kind of fun. And he said he was basically there all day. He had a great time. He was there hanging out with Billy and Big Show, and said something about driving Big Show to the airport or from the airport or something like that. And he also referenced that the show went longer than expected because they taped Collision at the last minute. They weren't supposed to. Collision was supposed to be live tonight, but instead they taped it on Wednesday. So Bishop said that he was there basically all day, and they didn't even leave till like after midnight that night. And he said he had a great time, great stories, just had a blast being there for the night, visiting friends, hanging out, and even getting in the ring in AEW. So that's very cool to see him there. We'll see if they bring him back in. I still think he's got a decent amount to offer. They could probably find something for him. Callis family never has too many members, right? So maybe we will see Bishop back in AEW in the future. But I mentioned that they taped Collision after Dynamite. That's because there is a massive snowstorm pounding a third of the country right now. Are any of you in the path of this thing? Looks like it's stretching from Texas all the way up to New York. I think New York and the New England area is going to get absolutely pounded with snow. It's like apparently the wind chill in some places feels like 30 below zero. You guys are all psychopaths for living in that part of the country. I hope everybody stays safe. I hope you have plenty of firewood. I hope your devices are charged. I hope you have either a fireplace or a wood-burning stove. And I hope you can just hunker down and ride it out because it looks gnarly. We've been getting some rain here, and I'm wondering if some of the rain that we've had in the last couple of days is pushing west, and that's what's turning into all the snow for the rest of the country. But it's still only 60 degrees here, which is a little chilly. It's not 30 below or anything, but it's still, what is it right now? Oh, it's 58. It's 58 degrees here in San Diego, in Southern California. And just a couple of days ago, it was 81. It was beautiful. I was out in shorts and a t-shirt, and it was so nice. So I feel bad to everybody else that is going through it right now. I think even the South is going to get pounded by this thing. So a lot of snow, a lot of freezing rain, a lot of ice, and a lot of cold temperatures nailing the country right now. So all the best to any of you who may be in the path of that. Thinking about you. Stay safe. Cold weather sucks, and it can be very dangerous. So just don't go out if you don't have to. Stay inside. Make sure you got plenty of food, plenty of water, and plenty of things to keep you warm. And as much electricity as humanly possible in case you lose it. Go pick up one of those those little portable power stations now. You don't even need a generator. Just get one of them. Those little jackery things or whatever, just portable, will cost a couple $1,000. You can continue to watch your movies and TV all through the snowstorm. So anyway, all the best to you guys if anybody is in the path of that mega winter storm ass-banging the country right now. We've got some good news regarding Will Ospreay. Apparently he was backstage Wednesday night at Dynamite. Fightful Select had a report on this earlier in the day prior to the show. Of course, it doesn't. He didn't appear on the show, or at least I don't think. I don't remember seeing him. But apparently, he was back there because he's due to start getting checked out by AEW Medical for a potential return. So, Fightful Select had said, and I quote. It's very early in the process in terms of him getting medically checked out, but it's good news for many that expected him to be out for a full year. We haven't heard of a specific timetable for Ospreay's return, but AEW has hoped that he could be factored into plans by this spring, which would be tremendous. Fightful was told around Ospreay's Wrestle Kingdom appearance that he wouldn't be sidelined as long as many neck injuries would indicate. So that's good news. Hopefully he can be back in time for All In. I think that's just the major concern there. I mean, being back for All In, I think is really important. So hopefully he can be. And he needs to win the title when he comes back, because Will Ospreay is the man all the best to Will. Happy to hear that he could be heading back sooner than we thought. Also, we've got a report from WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful Select about a potential WrestleMania match, and it looks like Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee is going to be the plan. So they're really stretching this out. AJ, of course, came back all the way right before WrestlePalooza, which was in September, and we thought we would get a little IC program between them right away. AJ showed up to help Maxine win. AJ is extremely part-time. I mean, we've only seen her, 2 or 3 times on television since her return, but apparently she's going to be back soon. She'll definitely be in the Rumble, and her versus Becky seems to be the plan. And according to WrestleVotes on Fightful Select, it appears to be one of the more locked-in matches for WrestleMania. So AJ and Becky, I'm assuming that will be for the championship, and Becky will hang on to the IC title until WrestleMania to drop it to AJ Lee? I guess. I don't even know if that feud needs the title. Maybe AJ can come back and do it again, because you're going to have to, I mean, obviously they have the rivalry still, but you're going to have to rekindle that at some point. AJ has already cost Becky Lynch the Intercontinental Championship once. What I would have AJ Lee do is do it again. I like AJ Lee. I'm happy she's back, but I don't really need to see her win the Intercontinental title. I mean, that means if Becky holds the title until WrestleMania to face AJ, that's going to be not only one of the most locked-in matches for the show, but one of the most predictable matches for the show. Wouldn't we all expect AJ to win the title if she faces Becky for it? So maybe I would have AJ cost Becky the title against somebody else, and then you do AJ and Becky at Mania without it. But I think the IC title will probably be on the line, and AJ Lee will probably win the IC title at WrestleMania. That's the way it's looking so far. But this is a woman, AJ Lee, who has not yet wrestled a one-on-one match since her return. So if she's going to be in the Rumble and then she might be in the Chamber, she might not wrestle a one-on-one match until WrestleMania. WrestleMania might be her first one-on-one match since she was in the company 12, 13 years earlier, however long it's been. Oh, I have a cat showing up. Hey, buddy. Sorry, I got a lava lamp in your way. You can come on in. Come on. You can't see him because he's here. You want to say hi to everybody real quick? Quickly? Up. He's just there. There's a little snout. Up. You can't see him. Anyway, Tito is here. He says hello. For those of you who stick around later on for the watch-along, you'll probably see more of him because he's a little bit more visible on watch-alongs. But anyway, Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee appears to be the case for WrestleMania, or the plan, I should say. So last Saturday on the podcast, we talked about the horrific TNA Impact debut on AMC. Absolutely terrible show. It just was not good. It didn't look good, had a very low-budget, independent vibe to it, and they did not look like a serious contender for a top promotion in the country. You know, it just really was not very good, and it was the topic of a lot of discussion all week from a lot of people. And we talked about it last week. We reviewed the show. We talked about the good and bad. And one of the things that I said the good thing about pro wrestling is that it never stops. It's just this ever moving fucking wheel. So TNA, it's not good to shit the bed on your first show. That's terrible. You don't want to do that because, how are you going to bounce back from that? You're going to be running uphill, basically. If you have such a terrible first show, Tito, you need to figure out what you're going to do. I need to dispatch my cat here. Come here. Cat, say hi. I'm going to put you under the desk. How about that? Please don't claw my cock. There you go. Thank you. All right, Tito's under the desk now. So we talked about, the Impact show last week. And I said, it's not good to shit the bed on your first show. Obviously, you don't want to do that because you're going to be putting yourself at a huge disadvantage and you're going to be fighting from underneath, right from the word go, which is not what you want to be doing. But you can still bounce back because Thursday night, the debut show was really the go home to their pay-per-view, which was in 2 days. And it was Genesis, right? It was good. They bounced back with a solid Genesis, and they bounced back with a solid show on Thursday. I didn't see all of it because I'm not going to really watch TNA, to be honest. I'm only going to, if I hear about something great that happens on the show or a great match, I will watch it. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to watch it. So I heard about Trey Miguel returning, saw that, and a lot of people had good things to say about the show this week on AMC, so that's good. However, we did get the numbers, the ratings for their first show, 173,000 for their very first show on AMC. Obviously, you can build on that. I have not seen if we've gotten numbers on Thursday's show, if they have come out. I did not look them up. If anybody knows them, you want to throw them in the chat, feel free. But that is not a good number for them. And it was even rumored to be lower than that. It was like under 100,000 at first, and then people were speaking up, that's wrong. A new number's coming in later, and it turned out to be about 173,000. So that is very bad. In a way, it's good because not many people watched their show, which means not many people got disappointed by how bad it was. Only 173,000 people know how shitty that first show was. So, if you can bounce back from that and start putting on better quality wrestling and better quality television, then, maybe you can build upon that number. So I'm wishing them nothing but the best. I thought they did terrible on their show last week, but I also knew that they got a show the next week and the next week and the next week. They got 2 hours live every week on Thursday nights, right? Or I think it's live. Are they taping some of these? I don't even know. But anyway, 2 hours every Thursday on AMC. So you got a chance. If you have a bad one, bounce back with a good one the next week. I'm not a sky is falling person. Everybody on social media, TNA is going to be fucking dead. LOL TNA. I'm like, it's not over for them yet. This isn't good, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. And let's certainly not do any celebrating about their bad show. Because what does that accomplish? We want everything to be hitting. If you're a wrestling fan, you want AEW on fire. You want WWE on fire. You want TNA making noise. You want NXT not to suck. You want everything doing good. You don't want to celebrate the downfall or bad situations or ratings or shows or attendance of any wrestling company. It's just stupid and counterproductive to do that. And that's why it's so popular amongst wrestling fans' dumbest parts of their audience. You know, the bitch boys, the tribals, all those people on social media that have nothing else to live for at all except being little fucking scumbags. I don't think that that's healthy to be that type of a wrestling fan. You want them to do good. So I want TNA to improve upon this. But with that being said, you know, it really puts into perspective how strong and how toxic that AEW hate can be. Because you've got all the classic grifters, you've got the Bischoffs, and you got the Coachmans and the fucking Russos and a handful of dipshit YouTubers out there who hate AEW so much that they purposely and deliberately bullshit themselves and are perfectly fine looking like idiots because nothing is more important to them than their hate for AEW. So you got somebody like Bischoff with all of his success and all of his experience in pro wrestling. You know, I really think that TNA is going to be the number 2 promotion. They're showing all the signs. They're doing everything right. He actually said with a straight face that TNA is doing better than AEW with their launch because Tony Khan set their expectations too high. He was basically saying AEW made a mistake by having a good Dynamite. A good inaugural Dynamite. That was a mistake. You know, where TNA has done everything right, he said. And to me, they look like the second biggest promotion in the world, which, of course, he doesn't believe. He's just a butthurt bitch because Tony Khan said something about WCW that pissed Bischoff off, and he's been a little immature twat about them ever since. Like, have some thicker skin. You know, what is it with men? You know, Tony Khan just said something about Ted Turner or whatever, and, you know, now Bischoff's butthurt. You got other podcasters not being let into after parties. Now they're butthurt, you know, and then they just turn their entire personalities into just hating TNA or to hating AEW, excuse me, like Russo's like that. And of course, you got your Coachmans and your Bully Rays who are just WWE shills and stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? TNA is going to be the number 2 promotion. We want TNA to succeed. We absolutely want that. But to be so fucking crazy, to actually stay with a straight face that they are the number 2 promotion, they are not. They are, I said last week, they are eons. Do you know what an eon is? Look it up. They are eons away from the number 2 promotion. It is WWE here, it is AEW here, and TNA is on the bottom floor, my neighbors below me. That's where they are. WWE here, AEW here, TNA 20 feet below. Not even close. Have you seen the numbers? Look up their TV deal. Look at the dollar amount that AEW is getting for this deal compared to AEW's. And then compare AEW's to WWE's. That will show you the pecking order right there. Okay? TNA is not even close. They do not come off at all like anywhere near a number 2 promotion. And when I watch Dynamite, if anything, it makes me appreciate how polished of a product AEW looks, you know, because they have much better production than TNA. And you can tell a lot more money goes into what they do, to presenting their product. And like, my question is, what are the people, so you look at the people who have like negative things to say about AEW. Somebody posts something about AEW Dynamite. Oh, it was a great show. Dynamite was a great show. And then underneath you have some troll that goes, yeah, well, only 6 people watching. They all say that. They say 6 people watch AEW. That's what they say. 6 people in the audience. Okay, boys, because it's only boys that do this. Those of you who say, and have tweeted hundreds of times, only 6 people are watching. If only 6 people are watching AEW, my question is to you, how many people are watching TNA? If 6 people are watching AEW, how many people are watching TNA? 1. 1 person is. By that logic, if only 6 people are in the audience for TNA shows, that means only 1 person is in the audience for TNA. And it's probably Santana's mom. She's the only one. Audience of one in TNA. Like, you see what I'm talking about here? You know, now like TNA being on television and TNA going to be routinely getting the numbers that they get, ratings-wise, viewership-wise. That should put into perspective. That actually should quiet down some of the tribals, because you have some people that make their entire personalities about anti-AEW, ragging on their ratings, ragging on their attendance. Well, these same people are claiming that TNA is going to be the number 2 promotion. They are, with 173,000 for their debut. What was AEW's rating on night 1? Pretty sure it was higher than 173,000. How many people were in the building for AEW's first Dynamite compared to the first Impact? You know, look at all these comparisons. Look at the dollar amount that TNA gets from AMC compared to what AEW gets from Warner Brothers Discovery, and compared to what WWE gets from Netflix and Saudi and Peacock and the USA Network, wherever the fuck else they are, and ESPN for the PLEs. You know, think about all that media rights money coming in, you know, and think about how big that is compared to AEW. AEW is just a fraction of what WWE is getting, but TNA is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. We're talking crumbs, you know, crumbs that they are getting here. So it's just not plausible right now. It is not going to happen. Of course, it's not going to put it all to bed. You're still going to have people doubling down because they don't want to feel embarrassed and stupid, but they are not going to be the number 2 promotion. It's not going to happen ever. As long as AEW exists, TNA will not be the number 2. Even if they bring in WWE talent, even if, and I'm hoping this happens, because something fishy is going on with AJ Styles and his retirement. I'm not sure if I'm buying into this match at the Rumble being it for him. I would love for him to wrestle at least one match in TNA and possibly even win the championship. Would WWE allow him to do that? What if Gunther beats him at the Royal Rumble and then AJ's like, no, man, I just retired from WWE, man. I got more. I'm wrestling TNA. And then he has his second retirement in TNA or something like that. I don't know. But, you know, you got to remember AJ Styles versus Gunther at the Rumble 1 week from tonight is the 10-year anniversary of AJ Styles debuting. Debuted at the Rumble, maybe not the exact date, but he debuted at the Rumble in 2016, having a nice just 10-year solid block. Rumble to Rumble. A decade. And then calling it a day in WWE, and that's it. That could be nice, but WrestleMania is right there. You can see it. It's right there. I'd like to see AJ make it to WrestleMania. But with everything going on with Gunther, maybe this is tying into him possibly coming back and helping out Impact, maybe even winning their championship and them having a nice send-off for him of some kind. I'd be into that too. But even with AJ going there, like if AJ were to win the TNA championship on the Thursday night Impact on AMC, I think they would do a decent rating for that. But one of the funniest things, you looked at the Bischoffs and all the people that, you know, with the AEW stick up their ass, they all predicted, you know, the ratings. You know, they're fucking crazy. They're all crazy. They're predicting ratings higher than AEW. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? I'm like, is your hate that strong that it completely clouds all common sense and rationality? You know, that is what is so weird about people in society, especially men, how random agitation and anger and frustration for whatever reason it is can make you so deliberately obtuse, like on purpose, you know, and even knowing that, you know, like you can't believe the shit that's coming out of your mouth. If you are, you're just delusional or deranged or both. And so to hear the fucking bullies and the Bischoffs and the Russos predicting these huge numbers for Impact, I'm like, you guys, is it just so hard to be normal? You know, like what the fuck? So anyway, they did a shit number. Let's hope they can bounce back. But let's also hope that this puts some of this stupid discussion to bed. Because if you're still out here on your YouTube podcast show, you know, you Bischoffs and your Russos out there still trying to say with a straight face that, oh no, TNA, they can bounce back from this. They're going to be the number 2 promotion in 6 months. Just stop. Just stop. You're embarrassing yourself. You're fucking embarrassing yourself. So all the best to TNA. Hopefully they will bounce back. Hopefully things won't be so bleak that, you know, maybe they're in danger of losing this deal or something. I just don't think that's going to be the case. TNA is not that inept. They've done some LOL TNA things in the past, of course, but they're still somewhat capable. They got good talent there. They can pull it all together. That's only going to be good for us. When all the promotions are hitting on all cylinders, that makes wrestling fun. That makes business real good over here on the YouTube channel too. So we are in no way, shape, or form hoping or cheering for the demise of TNA. We don't want that. We want them to succeed, and we sure as hell want them to do better than that fucking number they drew for their opening debut show. But I think things will probably stay steady or go down before they get better. They just got to get some momentum going. And that first show is always a good way to establish that momentum, and they didn't do that. So now, like I said, they're fighting from by. They're down 20, running uphill. So they got to bounce back from that, and I trust them that they will at least try. So best of luck. All right, so I kind of wanted to get all that news out of the way. My God, we still got a lot to do here, and we got to wrap up this podcast in about an hour and 15 minutes max. But, man, we got to talk about WWE Unreal, guys. WWE Unreal. So they dropped all 5 episodes of this, I believe, on January 20th, which I think was Wednesday. And it took me about 2 days to watch all of the episodes. And, it was exactly what I thought it would be with Unreal. We're going to go through episode by episode here. We're going to start with episode 1, but my overall thoughts on it was exactly what I thought it would be. I was not looking forward to this season at all because we knew after what we saw last year at SummerSlam with the Seth Rollins injury and him dropping the crutches and cashing in, we knew that that was going to be a big focal point of this year's season 2. And I really wasn't looking forward to WWE stroking themselves off, pretending like they fooled the entire wrestling world. We said this back in August after SummerSlam. I'm like, my God, WWE Unreal Season 2 is going to be absolutely insufferable because they are going to act like they are creative geniuses who fooled everybody. We're all just a bunch of idiot fucking marks that had no idea what was going on, and they played us like a fiddle when it was the exact opposite of that. The very night Rollins was hurt, this shit was on everybody's radar. Post-wrestling, Meltzer, a lot of people were coming out saying, hey, hold on a minute, there is a chance this could be a work. We talked about it being a possibility, and then at SummerSlam, we even laid it out. We even said, are they going to do the thing at SummerSlam where Seth comes out on crutches and drops the crutches? We talked about this weeks before it even happened. So it was on everybody's radar. We knew it was a possibility. And the execution of it, we saw there was still a little bit back. Nobody was really totally sure, but we definitely knew that it was possible. This is all a work. And when it turned out to be a work, okay, awesome, because that means Rollins isn't hurt. We thought he blew out his knee. Now he didn't. That's good news. Turns out he got hurt anyway. Now he's out, so it's all moot. But at the time, I was very happy when he came back at SummerSlam because I'm like, cool, he's not hurt. And we thought that maybe he was, and he's the Money in the Bank holder, and this is going to fuck up all the plans now, so this is good news. But it turned into everything online about, they worked the sheets and they worked the people and blah, blah, blah. Nobody was worked. And one thing that I really hated about WWE is some of the tweets they were posting from the dumbest accounts. They posted a tweet. Who was it? From Elite Rockers or whatever, some just random ass account, some nameless, faceless boy, just tweeting, spamming nonsense every fucking day of his life. And he put on there that, the Observer and Fightful are claiming that the injury is legit, instead of just screenshotting the tweet from Meltzer or Fightful or whoever he was referencing. And Sean Ross Sapp pointed out, like, we didn't even say this. And the Elite Rocker guy deleted the tweet. He tweeted something that was untrue and then deleted it, and WWE still used it. Because WWE, and I know they pay attention to online, and they see, first of all, wrestlers and wrestling personalities, some of them have a big stick up their ass about wrestling journalists. Not some of the main wrestlers, because they all talk to everybody and do interviews and stuff. But, you get the Bully Rays and the Jonathan Coachmans. They are very, very obsessed with the existence of these people for some reason. Again, you got a whole army of, dickless little boys out there that just obsess over the existence of Sean Ross Sapp. Why? Why? Nobody talks to him. Well, I just watched the Fightful Awards 5 days ago, where they gave out awards to a fuck ton of wrestlers, and they all recorded responses and thank yous and acceptance speeches. You know, you go to their YouTube page, and you got interviews with all the top stars, your Codys and your Hangmans and your everybody. You know, what are you talking about? Nobody talks to them. You know, and I think people really, really hate the fact that other people have connections in wrestling and they don't. So they just refuse to believe that anybody else out there is actually doing something with their life, and they lash out. And WWE was playing into this in Unreal Season 2. They are fanning those flames, you know, because there's so many little boys out there so concerned and consumed by gotchas. You know, and they want to prove that the dirt sheets got it wrong or the journalists reported something wrong. And I've said it time and time again that those fans, and even WWE here, they're ruining one of the most fun parts and aspects of the business. Because nowadays, you know, whenever you read wrestling news, it's just always somebody, well, you know, that's true, blah, 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 blah. Where back in the day, like reading the dirt sheets, reading the Toilet Paper Torch, or reading the Wrestling Chatterbox, or anything that I read back in the day, I loved it. Even a kayfabe one, even Vince Russo's Vic Venom shit from the WWF magazine, it was all just kayfabe bullshit, but I enjoyed reading it because it gave you a glimpse of what was going on behind the scenes. Just a little glimpse. He would write some shit and it was just like interesting. Same thing with hotlines. I love to call the hotlines and hear about the rumors and the possibilities. I'm not getting all uppity about what's true and what's not. It's fun to speculate about this stuff. You know, I'm like, oh my God. Like I remember in 1995, like Sluger might go to WCW. I remember hearing that in the summertime. And then he showed up on the first ever Nitro. I'm like, I knew that was going to happen. You know, we heard about that being a possibility, but you didn't really know for sure. And so reading wrestling news, reading wrestling rumors, speculation about what could happen, what might happen, who might be coming, who might be going, that was fun. And I think nowadays fun is sucked out of it. Because if you read a rumor, then the rumor doesn't turn out to be true, then you got some little anger boy going, you got worked. You're doing it wrong. You're doing life wrong. You're doing being a wrestling fan wrong. You're doing it all wrong. If these are the type of shit, if these are the type of things you care about, have fun. It's fun to speculate. It's fun to wonder. And use your own brain. Don't let other people do your thinking for you. There are lots of wrestling sites and YouTube channels and publications out there. You can pick and choose which ones to trust. I like Post Wrestling. I like Fightful. I like Bodyslam.net. I listen to Dave every now and then, you know, but you got to know who you're listening to and take everything with a grain of salt, especially like from Dave. But then there are other people you can take a little bit more seriously. And then you have the copy and paste sites. The No DQs and the eWrestling News and all those places that just take the stories from the people doing the work and posting it on their own sites. So you can just use your own head here and look around and you can determine for yourself who's credible and who's not. You know, but instead people get all butthurt about the existence of Dave Meltzer, of the existence of Sean Ross Sapp. No, you guys are not doing life the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to care about things that matter, you know, and not making hating another person so much a part of your personality, especially your wrestling personality, you know, that you hate so much that you bullshit yourself. Nobody talks to Sean Ross Sapp. Nobody talks to Dave Meltzer. That's not true. That is 100% not true. And it's very easy to verify that. You just go online and see. So WWE did that shit on purpose. They purposely posted those specific screenshots to fan those flames. So I thought that was annoying to me. Also, well, I will say this. I will give WWE more credit than I thought I was going to give them. I really thought that they were going to be insufferable. I thought it was literally going to be a writing room circle jerk about what geniuses they are about the Seth Rollins injury, when really it wasn't that. You know, they weren't patting themselves on the back too much. And as a matter of fact, a lot of what they showed here showed their incompetence. A lot of what they showed behind the scenes did not instill a whole lot of confidence in me in what these people are fucking doing. They don't have their shit together. You know, and Road Dogg, Jesus Christ, man, like how dumb is he? You know, he came off very dumb. Bruce came off very dumb. You know, and when I look in that writer's room, I'm like, you got to get rid of Road Dogg and Bruce. They're just not good. They are bad for the company. Bruce fucking suggested that Pat McAfee beat Gunther. I rest my case. So a lot of that behind the scenes stuff, I'm like, what are they talking about here? And some of the things they're pitching is just bizarre. And I think the craziest thing, I think it was episode 5 maybe, or 4. They didn't know that Cody was going to go film Street Fighter. They had this whole, because remember we were wondering and we were talking about what a lame ass baby face turn that John Cena had. He shouldn't have turned heel to begin with in retrospect now, but hindsight's 2020. So apparently WWE did have a plan to turn him babyface that was going to happen after SummerSlam. There was going to be a run-in or something. He was going to make the save for Cody, and then it was all going to come together. And then somebody points out that Cody's got to go to, Australia or something to film the Street Fighter movie, and they didn't know about it. And Triple H is like, see, Cody going to film Street Fighter, that really fucks up our creative plans. How did you not know that? How did you not? This is your top star. How did you not? All those people in that writer's room, all the people working for that company, this well-oiled machine that you guys pretend that you are, nobody knew this, and you already had creative in place for how Cena's babyface turn is going to go, and then you find out Cody's going to be unavailable because of the movie, and you have to call an audible. That's why they did it the way they did it on SmackDown, like the night before SummerSlam, is they just had John Cena turn heel right there because they didn't have time to do what they had planned after, and they acknowledged that Cody's movie thing was going to screw that up. I'm like, you guys got to be more on top of that shit, man. So there's lots of examples like that throughout the course of the series that was kind of like, if WWE if they're attempting in this series to show how the creative process works, what all goes into it, and all of that is very interesting. And they're trying to showcase their ability to produce great quality wrestling. There's a lot going on camera back there that's not showing them being very smart. And it sucks. You think about so many wrestlers who work hard and train and give their whole lives and bodies to this business, and your career and your livelihood and your push or lack of push is in the hands of some people who are quite inept. That would make me very uncomfortable and nervous as a wrestling fan, that no matter how hard I work or what I do, that it all just depends on these 7 idiots sitting around that table. I'd be very uncomfortable with that whole thing. I'd insist on having creative control in my contract because I can't let Bruce do it. No, I'm not going to let Bruce determine the course of my life. Ain't no fucking way in a million years I would ever let that be. So there's a lot about this show I did not like, but let's try to hit some of these episodes one at a time. We'll blow through these here relatively quick. Episode 1 was surrounding Becky Lynch's return, and she did allude to this being her final contract, and that's why she wants to try to, and Becky came off as so charming in this. She is such a rad chick, and Seth's lucky. I think Becky's cooler than Seth. She is, and I feel like she's got the right attitude. She talked about this being her final contract, at least most likely, and that she wants to do whatever she can to help the next crop continue the business beyond her. And that's why she's tried to work with the Lyras and the Maxines. And she's working with people that she expects or thinks will be the future and will be here when she's gone. And she wants to elevate those people. In some cases, she's elevating them, or she's doing too much. I mean, on Monday night, we had, our 6th or 7th match between Becky Lynch and Maxine? Like, enough's enough with that shit. But she's got the right idea. She really wants to help. And she really did feel horrible about taking Bayley's spot. She even went to bat for her, right? And asked Triple H if maybe they could do something else. And Triple H said, I'll get back to you on that. But she felt really bad about taking Bayley's spot. She didn't want to do that. She's like, I'm going to come off like the bad guy here. And she did. She wound up turning heel. They showed her return at WrestleMania with Lyra, and then her heel turn, the next night, because they won the tags, right, at WrestleMania, and then they dropped them on Raw. They showed her heel turn, and they showed her backlash match with Lyra Valkyria. So there was a lot of Lyra in these episodes here, and before everything went off the rails with the zip ties, which I can't wait to talk about. So that was a big part of episode 1, along with the Pat McAfee and Gunther match on Saturday night's main event. And they were talking about how all that came together. Triple H talking about Pat McAfee. I just knew him as this low-level podcaster or whatever he said, and he started getting popularity. And blah, blah. And McAfee and Michael Cole. Cole talked about their friendship and how close they have become. And, of course, we remember years ago, apparently Michael Cole was a huge dick to Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. Pat was wearing shorts, like a suit, but the pants were shorts, and Cole like chewed him out in front of everybody, and Pat was about to whip his ass, but they smoothed everything over, started working together, became very, very close friends. But it was not a good start for those two guys. And, they showed the writer's room where they're talking about the match, and I think that's where Bruce pitches McAfee winning, and then Triple H is like, well, if we're going there, then, what are you saying here? McAfee's just going to get this fluke win, and then he's going to sit on commentary every week, and Gunther's going to have to look at him. And I forgot which other one of the writers, might have been Koski, spoke up and just said, that's stupid. So finally, somebody shut Bruce's dumbass down. And so they showed that match, and Gunther, of course, did wind up getting the win, which he should have, and it was all pretty much about Gunther and McAfee. Episode 2 was all about R-Truth. Well, a lot of it was about R-Truth. R-Truth and Naomi mostly. But they talked about the R-Truth situation, which I was really interested to see how this went down as well. Because as we know, R-Truth got released last year after his match with John Cena and then returned at Money in the Bank. But they started out by showing all of the WWE stars and staff putting R-Truth over, talking about how beloved he is, how adored he is, and how everybody just puts him over as the best, just the best dude. Road Dogg specifically chronicles his relationship with R-Truth dating all the way back 20 years ago when they first met, and Killings at that time was about to walk away from the business until he was discovered by Road Dogg. He saw that he could rap, and he brought him in and got him into WWE, and they wrestled there as a team for a short time when Truth was known as K-Quick. And they talked a lot about the relationship, and Road Dogg was very emotional about how close the two of them are, and that was really nice to see all that. Prior to his release, they're in the writer's room there, and I don't know, I think it might have been Road Dogg who might have been on, because sometimes they would have one or two of the writers via video or Skype or something, and it might have been Road Dogg. And this was prior, I guess, to the Saturday night's main event match, and I think Road Dogg mentioned something like Truth wants to cut his hair. And Triple H is like, why do you want to cut his hair? And Triple H is like, no, that would be stupid. You don't cut his hair. Like, what does he do then? Like, why would he cut his hair? So Triple H was not a fan of the cutting the hair idea. Then you have the match with John Cena at Saturday night's main event. And then right after that was when the release happened. Now, what really happened was that R-Truth's contract was coming up. Triple H explains all of this. He said R-Truth was not fired. He was never not under WWE contract. He was never without a contract. But what the situation was that his contract was coming up for renewal, and in terms of negotiation, they were way apart on money. So communications kind of broke down a little bit, and Triple H even said it's very easy for one side to misconstrue that, and that's the type of thing that can happen. And since they were so far apart on money, R-Truth is up there in age. He's not in the ring full time. They felt like it would be best if they just didn't renew his contract. And usually when that happens, the hope was that R-Truth would say, oh, wait a minute, let's try to talk, and they would work something out. Well, R-Truth, he said he was like taking his daughter to dance practice or something like that, and he got a call or he got the text or something that they are not going to be renewing his contract, and he took that as being released. And he immediately took to social media and announced that he has just been released from WWE, which then sparked a shitstorm of frustration and criticism from not only fans, but even people inside of WWE. Just said, this makes me sick. This is fucked up. We don't like this, blah, blah, blah. And Triple H and even Road Dogg tried to explain. Even Road Dogg said it made sense to not renew his contract because at his age, are you going to get that reward back? Which is silly because R-Truth is beloved. Cody even said, he goes, R-Truth is a guy you just don't touch. You just don't touch that one, because he's been such a fun part of WWE, especially behind the scene, backstage and a lot of the segments. And, him doing a lot of his silly shit. He's part of the show that the fans have always enjoyed, and nobody wanted to see him go. So the fans went nuts. The talent went nuts. And R-Truth even admittedly said, I took it as a release and it hurt me. And that's why I put that out there. So R-Truth, if he would have phrased the tweet differently, if he would have said, WWE has informed me that they're not going to renew my contract, then maybe the backlash wouldn't have been as strong. But all of that backlash got him brought back. So they talked about how he was brought back at Money in the Bank and how only a few people knew. And he let Cody know. And I think he forgot to tell, what was the main event? It was Logan and who? What the fuck was it? Was it Logan and Cena? It was Logan and Cena versus Cody and Jay. That's what it was. And Triple H, I think, smartens up everybody except Logan and Jay, but I think Cena and Cody obviously knew. And they showed Truth being brought back in and the reaction that a lot of the talent had watching him attack John Cena and doing that whole deal, and then coming to the back and hugging everybody and seeing everybody. A little moment between R-Truth and Triple H, or Triple H like, I just want you to know that, I hope you know that had nothing to do with, it's just business, but I think this is a great thing for you. I'm so happy you're back. He got lots of hugs, lots of love. And so it was a happy ending at the end of the day. But what was funny is that after the Money in the Bank return, they show the deal where he cuts his hair. And now all of a sudden Triple H is okay with it. Triple H is now suddenly fine with him cutting his hair, because I think somebody mentions it to Triple H, or I think it's Truth. Truth does. He goes, I don't want to cut my hair. I'm going bald anyway, so I want to cut my hair. And then Triple H's like, yeah, do it. I'm like, wait a second, Triple H. You were all butthurt about it in the writer's room, but now that Truth approaches you face to face, you're like fine with it. So Triple H had a problem with him cutting his hair, then he didn't have a problem with him cutting his hair, and whatever. So they talked about the whole R-Truth thing, and they basically explained it exactly the way we knew it. We knew he wasn't released. We just knew his contract wasn't being renewed, but that was enough to piss the fans off. And then WWE wound up bringing him back, and they were able to come to terms on the money aspect of the negotiation or whatever it was, and Truth is now back. So of that whole situation, I really liked seeing the talent going to bat for him, talking about how he must be protected at all costs. Really like that. And I enjoyed, seeing the relationship between him and Road Dogg and how close they really, truly are. Road Dogg's not pretending they're good friends. They really, really are. And when R-Truth came through the curtain after Money in the Bank, him and Road Dogg kind of ran into each other right there in the hallway, shared a big hug, and Road Dogg was just elated that his friend is back. And that was all very, very wholesome. So I liked that. Also in episode 2, they talked a lot about Naomi. And they referenced when she walked out a couple of years ago, her and Sasha. They even mentioned Sasha, and they mentioned the different leadership. They didn't mention any names, but they were talking about Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis. Those are the names they were talking about. They wouldn't say them out loud, but that's who they were referencing when talking about head of talent relations and how they walked out and how Triple H wasn't a part of that at that time. And so a couple of years went by. Of course, Sasha never came back. She's flourishing as Mercedes Moné, and I'm hoping that Bayley joins her down the line and gets Paramore to make a theme for her in AEW. That's what I'm hoping. But she was never to be seen again, but Naomi came back. So they chronicled her return, I believe, at the Royal Rumble when she came back, and then her big heel turn and how great her heel turn was, and her Money in the Bank briefcase victory. They talked about that too. And of course, she would cash in a major way there. Episode 3 was pretty good. This one was crazy. It opens up, I think, with Penta, right? Penta explains his name. He explains Lucha Libre. He explains his catchphrase like we're 5. He really, in detail, explained the Zero Miedo. We know We know. You don't need to show us the hand signal or explain what it means. We got it. So he went into great detail about that. What I loved was seeing footage of him in his hometown in Mexico and his little wrestling school for kids. He's got his daughter who seemed a little bit older there, but she was probably only 11 or 12 or something. And they got little kids in the ring. Reminded me of like Eddie and Chavo. That's why a lot of those luchadors are so good. Lucha Libre wrestlers from Mexico are literally in the ring when they're 4. Doing hurricanranas and shit. No wonder they're good. So I just got a huge kick out of the wrestling school for children that Penta had. And what a cool dude. That was fun watching all his stuff. Also, Chelsea Green was a big part of this episode as well. And she was talking about how happy she is with her life. She's living her best life. They show her outside of her house that's being in the process of being built right now. And she's talking about where everything's going to go. And she's just basking in her success, rubbing it in a little thick there, or laying it in a little bit thick, or really rubbing it in. How successful and wonderful her life is. Very happy for you, Chelsea. Some people might not have a life as good as yours, but that's okay. I'm happy she's living her best life. That's good. So she's very on top of the world in terms of that, in terms of the money she's making, and in terms of the house that she's building. And she's happily married, and everything's going good for Chelsea. They talk about her U.S. title victory as well, and her U.S. title loss to Zelina Vega. And Zelina, of course, upsets her and wins the title. And then they cut back to the writer's room where they're talking about the possibility of Chelsea winning the championship back from Zelina Vega. And Triple H is like, well, if she wins I think it's Road Dogg says if we put the belt back on her, and Triple H goes, okay, fine. If we put the belt back on her, who does she work with then? And Road Dogg's like, I guess everybody else she's already worked with. And he's like, exactly. And what really annoyed me about this is that Michael Hayes is talking about Chelsea, putting over her strengths and weaknesses, and talks about Chelsea and implies that she can never really be a world title challenger, that she's only meant to be there to make those people look good, to get those people over. She's never going to be the champion. She's going to be the person used to help make the champions. I disagree. I absolutely disagree with that as much as a human could possibly disagree with fucking anything. I absolutely believe she can work at the top of the card. She worked with the world champion last night on SmackDown against Jade Cargill. She absolutely can be at the top of the card if they ever choose to put her there. You have 2 world championships. What are you talking about? She can never be a world champion. And that's what I'm talking about. Chelsea, who is so entertaining, who everybody loves, who does great, the fact that they have this opinion of her backstage. I'm like, why? Why do you have that opinion of her? She is way better than that and way more capable than that. So hopefully that will not stick, and Chelsea will eventually see a progression upwards in the card. But they talked about, her possibly winning the title back, and so they decided not to put the title back on her, but they did show the rematch with Zelina Vega, and that was when Chelsea was just having a day, man. The girl was having a bad day. She was sick as hell. She had the flu. She was on medication. She had her inhaler, and she was a mess, and she had to go out there for another United States Championship match against Zelina Vega. She's challenging for the title. She loses the match. She doesn't win the belt back, and to make matters worse, Zelina Vega breaks her nose. Breaks Chelsea's nose on a 619 spot. Chelsea's in position for the 619. Zelina comes around but botches it, but then still gets a foot up and just kicks Chelsea right in the face. And then hits her with a code red, and I think wins the match, and Chelsea's all bloody, and they're recognizing it in Gorilla. And then the best part was when she's coming backstage, and Zelina doesn't know. She sees the broken nose. She goes, what happened? And watching Molly Holly, who's back there as a producer agent, Molly just goes, you kicked her in the fucking face on the 619. I don't think she said fucking. But hearing Zelina goes, oh my God, what happened? And Molly's like, you kicked her right in the face. That's what happened. Oh, that was hilarious. That was hilarious. So Chelsea, she took it like a boss. She said it's like her 6th broken nose. and she's not even allowed to break it again, or she's going to have major problems. But obviously she was annoyed with it, and she hated that she broke her nose, but she didn't hold it against Zelina. Zelina apologized, and what can you do? But hearing Molly being like, you kicked her in the face. You didn't see that? You did it. You didn't see that? Hilarious. So Chelsea came off like a star there. I thought she was very cool, what we saw from Chelsea. And we also they also talked about in that episode was how the Vision came together the night after WrestleMania. They showed Triple H telling Braun Breaker that he's going to attack Roman Reigns and the Vision is going to be formed. So they showed all of that. That was very cool. And they showed Money in the Bank. And of course, Money in the Bank, this is the match that Seth Rollins won. And the shot here you see, I think, is the defining image of WWE Unreal Season 2, LA Knight sitting on the floor while Triple H talks to him about how the Money in the Bank match went wrong. So they're showing the whole Money in the Bank match and the finish, and I guess the idea is, we all know Seth won, but the idea was that they were hoping to have more of a battle for the belt between the two guys. They wanted LA Knight up there pulling Rollins down, then getting all the way up to the top and having his hands on the belt, but then Seth pulling him down, and then him pulling Seth down, and then getting all the way up there to the point where the fans think you have won. And then you get it taken away from you. And apparently Triple H claims that this was all set up to make LA Knight a star. This is a star-making moment for him to get fans behind his story, which I call bullshit on because fans have been behind his story for 3 fucking years and you haven't done anything. So Triple H is just, trying to be diplomatic here. Yeah, you're not going to win, but we're going to try to make this about you. And the only thing in this entire series that really came off as authentic at all was when shit went wrong. We're going to talk about that later with the Bailey and Becky, or the Lyra and Becky stuff. And here, in the Money in the Bank, you're watching the producers, looking at the monitor, watching LA Knight. Come on, get up there. You're supposed to get up there. What the fuck are you doing? That's the only time that I feel like I can trust that what I'm watching is authentic, because this whole fucking show is a work. They know it's on camera. They know what they want to be seen and heard. They're only going to show us what they want us to see. But when things go wrong, even in the first season, when they had that, when Abyss was, freaking out about, the going long and Bruce was breathing down his neck and everything, and just how tense that whole situation was. Those are the only moments that I really feel like I can take as authentic ones, because things are happening live in the ring. And they don't have time to react how they want to react for the documentary cameras. They got to take care of business. So the only time I think you're really getting a lot of authenticity is when those moments happen, when things are going awry in the ring and they're scrambling backstage trying to communicate with how to get the ship, the train back on track. So LA Knight, after the match, he's got to come back. He sits down next to Triple H, and Triple H is trying to explain to him, you were supposed to come up and do this and that. And he goes, we had this moment. This moment was set for you. This moment was all designed for you, and we didn't get there. And this look on LA Knight's face, like, and social media is such a joke. Somebody on social media posted this and tried to frame it as Triple H was telling LA Knight he was going to lose the match. This is how you're going to lose the match. This all happened after the match. This didn't happen before. This was after the match when Triple H was telling LA Knight that he fucked up because they wanted that moment to be better for him, and they kind of dropped the ball, and it made the finish a little bit flat. So that look on LA Knight's face, that just frustration, just, you could feel it, you could feel it in him. So that was probably, like I said, the defining image. That one still shot of LA Knight's face is the way I feel about this entire series. Episode 4 is all about Seth Rollins' injury, and it's all about evolution. Now, they talk about the Seth Rollins injury, and they basically show when they came up with it. They're in the writer's room, and Triple H is like, what if we do this thing where he gets hurt and we don't fucking tell everybody and we sell it like it's a shoot and blah, blah, blah. And they decide to go with it. Paul Heyman talks about it. He talks about how he's not a fan of Unreal. He talks about what a work is, and he references the Sandman being blinded in ECW. and how he didn't leave his house and how he protected the work and all of that. And they've got this whole thing in place now for Seth. They're going to try to accomplish this work. They're going to try to pretend that he's hurt when you've got all sorts of cameras rolling and you got everybody watching, and they're going to try to pull this thing off like he is legitimately injured in his Saturday night's main event match with LA Knight. So once they decide that they're going with this, Triple H decides to smarten up Cody. Cody's not even in the match, but he still goes, "Yeah, you're our guy. I feel like I should tell you what's going on. We're going to do an injury angle with Rollins tonight." And so he tells Cody about all that, and he talks about how he didn't smart up the referee. He didn't smart up Jessica Carr, which was surprising. I thought she would have to be in on that, but apparently she wasn't. But he did smarten up medical. You have to let them know. So he let Cody know. He let a handful of others know. I think Bobby Roode, they show him talking to Bobby Roode about it. And, or that might have been about the R-Truth thing. And he even said Seth didn't want to tell LA Knight. He said Seth was like, why does LA Knight have to know? Because he's your fucking opponent, asshole. And that's basically what Triple H said. He goes, I told Seth, he goes, imagine it was you in this situation. Wouldn't you want to be told? And Rollins, I guess, was like, okay, fair point. But the fact that Seth was like, why does LA Knight have to know? He's in the ring with you, dude. Come on. So they show the whole thing. They show Seth getting hurt. And that's why I kind of thought at the time, we speculated, we didn't know, but I was kind of leaning towards it being legit because of how Rollins was the WrestleMania main event winner, and he was the Money in the Bank winner. He's going to lose a mid-card match to LA Knight. The fact that LA Knight, they called the audible and LA Knight beat him, made me think that it was legit. Because I'm like, they wouldn't do that. If it was a work, or if they're trying to work us, they would just call the match and take Seth to the back. But the fact that they did the BFT, I'm like, I guess they're trying to present to the audience the illusion that they called an audible here. So I was like, they don't usually do that. That's why I was thinking maybe it was legit. We didn't really totally know, but we knew right from the start that it could be a work. And Seth, going backstage, he's limping. Everything's very secretive. They close the door in the trainer's room, and he's mic'd, and you can hear them talking about it a little bit. He gets the knee brace on. Seth talked about his daughter nearly blowing it, saying that daddy had a pretend boo-boo. So we remember he was walking around in a knee brace and crutches around town, and Becky was posting shit on social media about it. But like I said, a lot of the sheets and the websites and personalities, we were all speculating that it was at least a possibility, a very good one, that Rollins wasn't injured and this was all going to turn out to be a big work, which we would see come to light in episode 5. But also in episode 4, they talked about evolution. And a lot about Io Sky. My God, she is so adored. This woman must be protected at all costs. As valuable as someone like R-Truth is, so is Io Sky. She is just a ray of shining light, a ray of beaming light on the entire wrestling world. I don't think there's a human being in the world that dislikes Io Sky. She is tremendous. And she was on the documentary talking, and she's so cute. I like when she goes, I like heights. Some people are afraid of heights. Not me. I'm afraid of wits. But she likes heights, and they showed her jumping off with the trash can lid on the War Games matches and all that. And they talked about her Evolution match with Rhea Ripley and how all that came together and how they were putting all that together and how that was leading to the Naomi cash-in, which we saw. So Naomi, after she turned heel, of course, she now cashes in at the end of the Ripley and Io Sky main event, wins the championship. And I think one of the best parts of this whole documentary was seeing everybody happy for her. And that's really what wrestling is all about. And that's why the fans they get so caught up in this tribal bullshit that they don't realize that the wrestlers are not tribal. It's just the fans. Wrestlers root for each other, cheer each other on, are happy for each other's success. They cry tears of joy when they see one of their peers winning the championship. That's what it's all about. Doesn't matter what company you're in. Doesn't matter which initials are on the turnbuckle pads. It doesn't fucking matter. Wrestlers support each other. Obviously not everybody loves each other, but for the most part, there's a lot of respect, a lot of camaraderie there, and really cool to see the talent reacting so positively and emotionally to Naomi winning the championship. That was really, really good. I loved when Io Sky leapt into Triple H's arms and literally just wraps her whole arm. She was doing that to everybody, but I saw Vince Russo. It's so disrespectful. I'm like, my God, these fucking men. I can't believe she would do that. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I've been in the restaurant business my whole life. I used to have a little bartender that would run up to me and hug me like that every day. Never thought anything of it. So she's a little friendly person, that's all. It's not pervy or weird or anything like that. Io Sky's just a trip. She jumped in Triple H's arms. It's so inappropriate. These are all MAGA people, by the way. This is the anti-snowflake crowd that's offended by a woman hugging a man. It's so inappropriate. Get over yourself. Not a big deal. So anyway, Io Sky was hilarious in that. Really enjoyed that. They also talked about Jelly Roll. Of course, we had a lot about Jelly Roll. Talked about his big weight loss journey, and props to him. I don't listen to Jelly Roll's music. I don't really care about Jelly Roll, but my God, to see how large he was at SummerSlam 2004 and to see him talk about that, or 2024, and to see him talk about that, about how he performed that move in the ring and had to be helped up. And he goes, I'm coming back next year. I'm going to be a new man. And he's damn near under 300 pounds. I think he's in like the high 200s. And he weighed 450. So he's lost like over 150 pounds. Just crazy body transformation. Triple H called him a sloppy Dusty. I think that's a compliment. That's a compliment to be called a sloppier Dusty Rhodes based on your in-ring work. But they chronicled his weight loss journey and him training to wrestle, to be ready for his SummerSlam match here the following year. And in episode 5, it was all about SummerSlam. They showed the Jelly Roll and Logan Paul, Jimmy Kimmel stuff, and which I thought was really great, and the SummerSlam match with Jelly Roll, and even prior to the show when Jelly Roll's like talking to Triple H. I talked about my finish, heels up, heels up, heels up, and Triple H's like, oh, right now I'm leaning 60% to heels up. It's here Jelly Roll saying heels up. Shut up, Jelly Roll. Anyway, heels up. And heels were up. They should have won, and they did. They talked about CM Punk, or actually I should say Becky and Lyra. We got to talk about Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria because this was great. Now, the two of them have had a great rivalry up until this point. The WrestleMania stuff was good. The turn was good. The Backlash match was good. The Evolution match was good. So they've done great things, but it went off the rails here. It's Becky versus Lyra. And I forgot, this was like was it no holds barred or something? They were able to have weapons, right? And they showed the spot, we all remember this from SummerSlam, where Lyra gets her hands zip tied. And she's on the documentary saying that this was all her idea. It was her idea to use the zip ties. And so Becky, of course, puts the zip ties on her, but then they execute a move or something, and Lyra's hand comes out of the zip ties. And we saw this at SummerSlam. We were doing a watch-along, and I'm like, fucking, her hands came out. And her hands came out, and she inexplicably puts her hands back in. And I remember saying that night, I'm like, if you have a planned spot, or you have something planned, and something goes wrong, guess what? You don't do that spot. Abort. It's not important to the match. Maybe a spot could be important, but this zip tie shit, you could have easily done away with it and the match would have been fine. You just scrap it. Abort when something like that happens. And Lyra explains it on the documentary. She's like, well, maybe the cameras didn't catch it. And then she goes, but they did catch it. And her hands come out and you can see her putting her hands back in. And then they cut backstage to Gorilla. And they're back there going, and they got the camera on Seth. And this is I laughed out loud. And you can hear somebody in the background going, did her hands come out of the zip ties? And Rollins goes, and she put her in his Rollins nasally voice, and he just nods. He goes, and she put her fucking hands right back in it. Oh my God, I died. So them talking about her doing that. And then to make matters worse, then when it comes time to take the zip ties off, she can't get them off. And she's now she's stuck in them, and she's trying to cut it with the fire extinguisher. She has to crawl under the ring where there's a production dude under there. She had to crawl under the ring and be like, cut these fucking things off my hands. So she gets them out. They finish the match. It's kind of a mess, and they show a lot of the backstage reaction to that. Lyra feels terrible. Becky kind of feels terrible. Lyra is so emotional. People are trying to cheer her up. She wants Becky Lynch. Becky's like, no, it's okay. She's like, no, I need you to yell at me. They show a clip of John Cena talking to Lyra. And he's like, it's so funny. He goes, that chair spot, that thing with the chair, that was so violent. He goes, there's no fucking way I would have ever said yes to that. The way he delivered that, you can see that John Cena, like, he don't want to do something. He's not doing it. And he's just like, there's no fucking way I would have agreed to that, to do that spot that you did. So they're trying to support her, trying to say, hey, it's all right. We're back in the 80s. You might have been fucking bullied out of the goddamn building for having a match that bad. But, everybody was there, having her back. It's okay. Patting her on the back. It's all right. And I don't know if she's really recovered from that match yet because everything was going so good up until then. And then the SummerSlam match just kind of fucked it all up. So they talked about that. That was crazy. And, of course, they talked about the Seth Rollins cash-in. And the CM Punk versus Gunther match, they showed that match and how Gunther got busted open. And then at the end, they even talk about this prior to the match when they're laying it all out to Punk about what's going to happen. And, you're going to be in the war of your life and you're going to be standing there, after beating one of the toughest people in pro wrestling for the championship. And then out comes Seth Rollins. And so they show all that happening. They show Rollins dropping the crutches, coming in and cashing in, and how they fooled the world, but they really didn't. And I will say this, WWE, they didn't stroke themselves as hard as I thought they would. I think they even acknowledged that some fans kind of thought this was a possibility. They were doing their best to try to keep it as real feeling as possible. So at least they weren't so up their own asses that they really thought they fooled us all. I think they knew that we probably also knew it was a possibility. And that's really all it was. All we knew going into SummerSlam that night was that the Rollins injury was possibly a work. And we wouldn't really know that until SummerSlam was over. But we all knew from the minute he fucking landed on that canvas and tweaked his knee on Saturday night's main event, we knew that could possibly be a work. So they showed the execution of that, which was really well done, got to admit. And they also showed the main event with Cody Rhodes and John Cena. That whole thing, of course, Cena turned heel the Friday before, or turned babyface the Friday before. Went into that match as the face. Cody got his belt back, and then after the match, Brock Lesnar returned and attacked John Cena. So they showed Brock showing back up and all of that, but they didn't spend too much time on Brock other than that. And that was pretty much the 5 episodes of Unreal. I thought it was, just about as interesting as the first season was, but I'm not a huge fan of this show and this concept. The fact that there's no curtain anymore at all. I mean, kayfabe was dead. It's been dead since I was 20 years old or younger. So, we're going on 30 plus years of kayfabe being absolutely murdered. But man, it's crazy, how everything is just out in the open now. And they talk about how all the shit comes together. And, in terms of where it ranks compared to season 1, I don't know. I'd probably rank them the same, I guess. But there you go. WWE Unreal Season 2 now in the books, and those were some of the highlights. Let's bust out just a couple of other things real quick. We got to talk about some wrestling results, but we're going to make this quick. Let's start with this past Monday's Raw in Belfast, Ireland, headlined by CM Punk defending his world championship against Finn Balor in the main event. It was a good match. It was awesome. Balor had all of the crowd behind him. The crowd was okay to Punk, but they were very, very pro Balor. Balor had his mom there. He even came out to his original Demon Balor music. It was so loud he couldn't even hear. He couldn't even do his thing because he was almost not in sync with it because he couldn't actually hear the music because it was so loud. And I'm glad we got this match. I'm glad there's a one-on-one match that exists between CM Punk and Finn Balor for the championship. Punk beat him clean, retained the title. Punk, I believe, will be taking the title into WrestleMania. I doubt he will drop it. I'm not even sure, or actually I shouldn't say I'm not even sure, I don't think Punk's going to work the Rumble. He doesn't have a title match, does he? Unless they set something up on Raw. Otherwise, I think Punk's going to be up in the box. And that's why I think maybe Punk's title is the one that the Rumble winner goes after. I don't know. I don't know. You know, we're going to be talking about the Rumble, but man, I still want to see Cody and Punk, and I think the best way to do that is to have Cody win the Chamber. You know, but Cody winning the Rumble for the third time, and maybe he challenges Punk or something. I don't know, but I'm really glad we got Punk and Balor on Raw. Also, we had Becky Lynch defeating Maxine Dupree to retain the Intercontinental Championship. Natalya was there. You could see this heel turn coming from across the street. She said that she was going to be in Maxine's corner to have her back, to watch her back, to operate as an enforcer, which is a telltale sign she's going to be turning heel. And Maxine, I think, next knocks Becky down with a spinning heel or something. Becky goes down. She goes to pin her, and Natalya puts Becky's foot on the rope. Maxine can't believe it. Natalya just stares at her. Becky Lynch hits her with the manhandle slam, retains the title, leaves the ring, and Natalya enters the ring and beats the shit out of Maxine and puts her in the sharpshooter. And this could be the birth, or not the birth, but the debut of low-key legend Natty on Raw. So she might be coming back on Monday. I'm hoping that we see her on Monday in that low-key legend gimmick, as she now targets Maxine Dupree. You can definitely see this coming, and I'm happy to see where it goes because I like Natty. I've always liked Natty. I've really liked Natty in the last few years. Haven't always liked her, but I've liked her a lot lately. And she's the best. So I'm hoping that she can do good things with this gimmick because she's been having a blast with it outside of WWE. Adam Pearce is getting all mixed up with the Vision right now. He was a big part of their loss in their six-man match on Raw. Rey, Mysterio, Penta, and Dragon Lee beat the Vision. I think it was Logan, Reed, and Theory. And Pearce helps out by taking away the brass knucks, allowing Rey Mysterio to use the knucks on Austin Theory for the win. So Heyman has got a lot of issues with Pearce putting his hands on his Vision stablemates. Of course, the whole thing with Breaker happened a couple of weeks ago that got Breaker suspended. And Adam Pearce received a phone call on Raw. And he informed Paul Heyman that he wants to see Braun Breaker in the ring and speak to him man-to-man next week. So it sounds like Pearce might be getting a phone call from above, telling him to either reinstate Braun Breaker or bring him back in maybe with a punishment. And I think he's going to have to, Breaker's going to be in the Rumble. So I'm wondering if maybe he makes Braun Breaker be number one in the Rumble. You know what? I mean, at this point, does Breaker even need the Vision? Does Breaker even need the Vision? Like, I almost think that Breaker should just like jump to SmackDown. Like win the Rumble and then just jump to SmackDown and be his own man over there, you know, and maybe like, because the Vision was involved in that match with CM Punk, maybe cuts a promo after the Rumble, after he wins, and be like, one thing that I've noticed is that whenever I'm by myself, doing things by myself, I win. But whenever I'm with you assholes, I lose. You know, I lost to CM Punk. I thought being with the Vision was going to give me the support that I needed to succeed, but I realized I don't need any of you guys. I can succeed on my own. So thank you, but no thank you. I'm leaving the Vision. I'm going to jump ship to SmackDown. You know, maybe there's an attack, or maybe the Vision then attacks him, and then Elimination Chamber, you book Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed one-on-one in a match. Reed wins, and then go, and maybe Bronson wins. Maybe it's one of those matches where you put your title shot on the line. So maybe Breaker wins the Rumble, leaves the Vision. Vision doesn't accept that, attacks him, and then you do Breaker and Reed at Chamber with the Rumble match on the line. Breaker wins and is on his own now, but maybe he's on SmackDown completely separate from the Vision. I don't know, something like that. I don't even know if he really needs them, needs the Vision, but regardless, he's going to be on Raw this week, and it sounds like something's going to happen there where Pearce is going to have to reinstate him, and maybe he makes him number one in the Rumble. Maybe that's the story. Breaker enters at number one, and that could be a good way to not have him win. He'll be number one. He'll get eliminated. He'll blame Pearce, and you can hold off making Breaker a champion until maybe SummerSlam or something. Or maybe the plan, like we heard prior to the CM Punk match, that Breaker was a favorite to win. So maybe that's what he's doing. he's going to win the Rumble at number 1. We will see. But I have a feeling he will be entered into the Rumble this Monday on Raw. El Grande Americano picked up a win against Javon Evans. Javon Evans got hurt in that match. They went to commercial. They came back. He was injured, and they called the match off. Sounds like he's okay. Sounds like it was a precautionary thing. Whew, thank God. I really hated to see him go down with an injury, so hopefully he is all right and he's back and he's not going to miss any significant time because that was really scary. In the main event of Raw, of course, CM Punk did beat Finn Balor. That was tremendous, and I'm really glad we got that match. Last night on SmackDown, not a whole lot happened. They did a Sammy promo and a main event match against or pitting Priest against Trick Williams. So the Sammy promo, Trick and Priest interrupt. There's a scuffle. Then in the main event, the Trick and Priest match ends in a no contest when Sammy interferes and Randy Orton, who shows up and RKO's Trick Williams and Sami Zayn to end the show. So it was Randy Orton standing tall, which means he's probably not going to be standing too tall tonight, if you know what I mean. Also, we had Jade Cargill defeating Chelsea Green. Jordynne Grace was outside the ring. After that, she challenged Jade Cargill to a fight right there, but Jade leaves. So I was thinking we might see those two face at the Rumble, but it sounds like Grace is just going to be in the Rumble match itself. And I don't know if we're going to get Jade and Grace one-on-one or when that's going to happen, but it feels like it's going to probably happen before WrestleMania. Unless Jordan wins the Rumble, we will have to see. I really enjoyed the Cody interview that Fatu crashes. And just in 50 minutes from now, if any of you guys have got an eye on Saturday night's main event, or if they've announced the match order yet, I feel like that could potentially open the show if they're going to close with the four-way. I feel like Cody and Jacob are either going to open or they're either going to close. So that match might be going live in 50 minutes. And I really enjoyed the back and forth between them, some of the things that Cody brought up, Fatu talking about his life, and still trying to find out who attacked him. And, of course, Cody is blaming Fatu for losing the title to Drew McIntyre. So scores to be settled here tonight in that match. That should be good. Also, the MFTs defeated the Wyatt Six to win the extremely dead SmackDown tag team titles. The tag team title situation on SmackDown is horrible. They're still doing the thing where the MFTs have possession of the lantern, but I don't give a fuck. They won the tag team titles. Who cares? Also last night, Nick Aldis invited AJ Styles to SmackDown, and it was there that they set up AJ's match tonight against Shinsuke Nakamura on Saturday night's main event. So that's coming up in just a little while. We're going to be watching that together. And also, we had Drew McIntyre. He cut a promo reiterating that he did not attack Jacob Fatu. So I'm wondering if we get the reveal tonight. Do you think we get the reveal tonight on Saturday night's main event? I don't think we do, but we might. And if we did, it could be Randy Orton. It could be Royce Keys. We don't know yet. We don't know who attacked Jacob Fatu. We could get a reveal tonight, but we might not. And also last night, really interesting match, Julia and Kiana James, they won a number one contenders tag team three-way, beating Charlotte and Alexa and Nia Jackson Lash Legend to become number one contenders for the tag team championships. Now, they didn't say when that match was going to take place, but they're going to be facing the winners of tonight's tag match between Rhea Ripley and Io Sky and Roxanne and Liv Morgan. So Rhea Ripley and Io Sky better retain. I'm hoping they do. I'm expecting them to, because I want to see Julia and Io Sky in the same ring. That's going to be fun. So that's pretty much all we saw on SmackDown. Also, Nathan Frazier last night also defeated Johnny Gargano when Candice LeRae accidentally hit husband Johnny Wrestling right in the face, and allowing Frazier to get the win there. Oh, I meant to put the SmackDown graphic up. Sorry, that was all about SmackDown. In terms of the Royal Rumble, right now it's Drew McIntyre versus the winner of tonight's four-way. We've got AJ Styles versus Gunther in a career-ending or threatening match, I should say. And we've got the Women's Rumble and the Men's Rumble. So 4 matches currently on tap for the men and women. Oh, and I should mention last night on SmackDown, it was announced via video package that Roman Reigns has declared for the Royal Rumble. So Roman is officially in. I feel like it's got to be Roman, Cody, Braun Breaker, or Gunther winning, because AJ is putting his career on the line against Gunther. That was set up on Monday Night's Raw. And, you know, like I said, I'm not sure if I want that to be the end for AJ, especially with WrestleMania so close. And some folks have pointed out the possibility of maybe AJ beating Gunther, but then Gunther coming back to win the Royal Rumble. And I could see that being the case, but I don't know if we want Gunther in a title match. I feel like Gunther would be better off just facing Brock Lesnar or AJ Styles in a retirement match. So I'm hoping that AJ finds a way to win. And then maybe him and Gunther continue, they eliminate each other from the Rumble, or they fuck each other up in the chamber, which then prompts the final match at WrestleMania, career versus whatever, you know, unless they add a championship to this, I don't know. But Gunther winning the Rumble, I wouldn't exactly hate that. You know, right now, Drew McIntyre, assuming he's going to be champion going into WrestleMania, which I think he will be, he could face Cody again. He could face Roman. Drew and Roman is absolutely a match I could see them doing. I could also see them doing Drew versus Cody versus Roman in a triple threat. But what about Drew versus Gunther? I mean, Gunther's got some win. Gunther beat Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I was there, 39. He pinned him with a powerbomb in that triple threat for the IC with Sheamus. So Gunther is a guy that knows he can beat Drew. So Gunther winning, Gunther and Drew one-on-one for the title at Mania, sure. I just don't feel like they're going to do that. But we will see. 1 week from tonight is the Rumble. All right, before we predict Saturday night's main event, let me just really quickly run through some results of Dynamite. First of all, fantastic main event. Kevin Knight, Swerve Strickland, loved every fucking second of that match. Highlight of Dynamite easily for me on Wednesday. The rest of the show, okay. Kenny back in the ring beating Josh Alexander. That was fun because it was such an important match for Josh. He really wanted that match for many, many years, and he got it. Not loving what they're doing with Toni Storm right now. I think she needs to get out of this timeless love bombs team with Mina Shirakawa, because the little sexy dance on the way to the ring, I need more than that from those two. And as much as I thought I loved this tag team, I don't. Tony's losing all the time. And they took another loss on Wednesday to Megan Bain and Penelope Ford. FTR got a win over the new signings, Jordan Oliver and Alex Price. Tony Khan, big fans of these guys, goes way back at least with one of them, and was really happy to be bringing them into the team, or into the company. And the Death Riders defeated the Callous B team, and the Death Riders are now baby faces, including Wheeler Yuta, who's such a little shit. But he's a babyface now. Like I said, tonight's Collision was supposed to be live in Texas, but it was canceled because of the bad weather that's happening everywhere. And they taped it on Wednesday instead. Here's what you're going to see. Hangman Page versus Shibata. You're going to see Chris Statlander versus Isla Dawn. Claudio defending his CMLL title against Roderick Strong. Takeshita and Fletcher versus Austin Gunn and Billy Gunn. Doyle and Davis versus Price, Alec Price and Jordan Oliver. Andrade versus Magnus. And Willow versus Julia Hart. Do I have that right? Andrade versus... Who was Nick Aldis? Wasn't he Magnus? Do I have this? Why do I have Magnus? Was there really an Andrade versus Magnus match? Who am I thinking of here? Help me out. Okay, no, Magnus. I don't know who the fuck Magnus is. What the hell's wrong with me? Oh, yeah, Magnus. He was Magnus, too. So is there two? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I just saw that. I wrote down, I haven't seen Collision. I just wrote down the results. And I'm like, Magnus, Andrade versus Magnus. Who the fuck is Magnus? Anyway, that's what you're going to see tonight on Collision, if you so choose to watch that. But we're going to be watching Saturday night's main event. And I need to run through these predictions fast, man. Fast. 4 big matches on tap for tonight. We have Io Sky and Rhea Ripley defending the women's tag team titles against Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. Io and Ripley have got to win this. Not sure what Ripley or Io is going to do at WrestleMania, if one or both of them are going to be in the title picture at all. But I want to see them keep the titles here just because I want to see Io Sky face Julia for a championship. So I'm hoping that happens. So I'm going to go with, excuse me. Man, I've been talking too long. I'm going to go with Io and Rhea Ripley to retain the tag team titles. Also, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. AJ Styles all the way there. Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu. I'm going to go with either no winner or a disqualification. I don't see either one of these guys having their shoulders pinned to the mat in this match. So I don't know who to really pick, because if it's going to be a DQ, it could go to anybody. It could go to Cody, it could go to Fatu. One of them is going to be DQ'd. So I'm going to go with no winner or a disqualification. So if it's going to be a disqualification, I guess I'll go with Cody getting the DQ win, is what I'll go with here. But I don't believe either guy will be pinned. And in what might be the main event, we don't really know, Fatal 4-Way #1 contenders match to determine who Drew McIntyre will face at the Royal Rumble. Sami Zayn versus Damian Priest versus Randy Orton versus Trick Williams. And I am going Sami Zayn all the way there. It's got to be Sami. McIntyre versus Sami at the Rumble is absolutely what I'm expecting them to do. So there you go. Io and Ripley to retain. AJ over Nakamura. Either a no winner or a DQ situation in Cody and Jacob, and Sami Zayn to win the 4-way and head to the Royal Rumble. All right. Well, I made it to the end of my notes with a few minutes to spare here. So let's talk to the chat, hit some super chats and see what you guys are saying. And then we are going to do a really quick regroup, and we are going to be coming right back here in about 30 minutes to watch Saturday night's main event. So make sure you join us here in just a little bit for that. And now let's just knock out some super chats and all that jazz. And thank you again to everyone for hanging out this afternoon. I will try not to go too fast here. And I want to read what a lot of you guys are saying. Just got real busy, or just had a lot to talk about. So now we got to get through some of this. Super the Great 123. Appreciate the $2. Triple H and Rollins are nauseating to listen in Unreal a little bit. Yeah, the whole fucking series was nauseating. Oh, yeah, Rams and Seahawks is the second game tomorrow. That's right. And what's the other one? Rams and Seahawks, and then it's Broncos Patriots. That's right. That's our final four. So sorry for going head-to-head. Just scrolling slowly. Bear with me. Thank you, Ryan Adams, for the $5. They fired Trey, but kept Wentz, who was fired from WWE for a costume a few years ago. I don't even know what Wentz did for a costume. Oh, was it like some Nazi shit or something? Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. That's what's going to happen when you have a situation like that. If somebody gets fired for the reason that he got fired for, you got to know that all people are going to do is start comparing that to other situations. Well, what about him? And what about him? And what about him? So that can cause backlash. So it's not always, you might think you're doing the right thing. Oh, we don't want someone like that on our TV, but that's just going to make matters worse if you're not careful. -22 when you left work last night in Minneapolis. I hope you are safe and everything going on up there in Minneapolis. It's fucking disgusting. Ryan, I hope everything is going well for you and everybody who lives up in Minneapolis. I am sorry what our shit-ass government is doing. So embarrassing. After I start talking for like 2 hours, my voice gets scratchy. I apologize. All right, let's see. Who's next? Ryan's got 5 more. After watching Unreal, Io is never leaving WWE if Triple H is running things. Yeah, I mean, you would never want her to go. Why would she go? WWE loves her. She loves being there. She is just such a wonderful human. Everybody just loves Io Sky. And you could see that. You could see that from the wrestlers to the management to Triple H to Michael Hayes. A lot of people making comments about just how much they love her and how much she's treasured in that locker room. And that's good. Garrett Osborne, appreciate the 2. You wouldn't trust Brother Love, Rio Rogers, or Greg? No, I would not trust Brother Love or Rio Rogers. They both suck. 5 more from Ryan. Unreal also showed me that when Triple H is done, Punk, Seth, and Cody are going to be leading creative and stuff. Punk, Seth, and Cody. What an interesting trio leading up creative. You got to throw a woman in there. Got to throw a girl. Becky. Maybe not Becky. Becky could be okay. I'm trying to think creative, though. Is Becky that creative? I don't know. She's cool. She's rad. Not sure how creative she is. But yeah, get some women in there. A little more diversity. You know, the writing room, it was good. It was good to see. They got a woman in there. You know, they got some younger people that I didn't recognize the girl, but she was, you know, pretty heavily featured. And if you ask me, when it comes to that writer's room, you just got to eliminate the Road Dogs and the Bruces. You know, I don't know much about Koski. You know, I don't know what Bobby Roode is like, you know, but the Bruce and the Road Dogg, that mentality, they got to shed that, man. I just think you need some fresh. I think both companies could use some freshness in their creative process, you know, and AEW's, you know, they're not innocent either. They could use a little bit of help or spice, you know, you need some spice, a little cayenne in there, you know, instead of just this vanilla bullshit. So yeah, I would make some changes to that writing room. It was up to me. Zane G, appreciate the 5, my bro. Point you dropped, Greg. R-Truth's son called Triple H out on his BS regarding Tripp's comments about Truth's contract. Yeah, I do remember. Did they touch on that, though, in Unreal? I do remember that about Truth's son calling out BS. But in terms of what Triple H said, Truth was never not under contract because he was just told his contract wasn't renewed, and I don't think it wasn't going to be renewed, and I don't think it had fully lapsed when they brought him back. It may have, I don't know, but I'm just glad it got worked out. You could tell that WWE, you know, probably didn't want to have to do that and bring him back because of the backlash, but they did. Triple H hugged him. He's back there now. Everybody's happy. And my big question is, what happens when his next contract is up? It's only been 6 months, so he's probably re-signed for another 3 years, so it's another 2.5 years before I have to worry about this, but I am curious how much that new deal was for. And when that one is up, he's going to be in his, mid to late 50s now. What are you really going to do with him at that point? 5 more from Zane. Chelsea even brought up, and they even showed Chelsea's match against Penta in Lucha Underground. Yes, they did. That was very cool. And she talked about running it back, didn't she, in WWE? I don't know if we'll ever see that. So many people had a problem with Triple H hugging Io Sky. I know. It's because people don't understand how relationships and friendships work, and not everything is sexual. And just chill out and stop being such a one-dimensional thinker. That's my response to people who have an issue with Io's Triple H hug. And it's always the anti-snowflake crowd. It's always the anti-cancel culture crowd that gets so offended by stuff like that. I'm like, look in the mirror. The biggest snowflakes alive are the ones who hate snowflakes. My God, so inappropriate. Go cry. Go cry about it. 5 more from Ryan. Roman is the favorite as the Rumble winner according to betting sites. Liv for the women. Yeah, I can see that. Roman and Liv. Liv is my pick right now. But we're going to be doing predictions on Tuesday, by the way. Tuesday, predictions, guys. Make sure you're here. I think I've got that scheduled for 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on Tuesday. And we will also, we'll be doing this before NXT, and we will also be talking about whatever happens on Raw that day as well. Bianca, I really hope she returns at the Rumble. That would be awesome. Dorian, the contract would not matter. The contract would absolutely not matter. You're basically saying that Hobbs attacking Fatu, he thinks it's funny because he'd be violating, the contract wouldn't matter. It would have nothing to do with it if he was the ones that attacked Fatu. He could have just showed up. You know, like people mentioned it could be Brock. I mean, you think nobody would notice Brock back there, you know, but fucking Hobbs, he could just show up under a hoodie, sneak in the back door, attack Fatu, run into a car and leave. Nobody even knew it was him. He was under contract to AEW the whole time. It's not out of the realm of possibility. You can't discredit him as the attacker because of the AEW contract. It's wrestling. It's kayfabe. What the fuck are you talking about? Contract has nothing to do with it. Shout out to Juliet. Yep, the Trey Miguel and the Briscoe deal, very, very similar. That's why I was hoping that if they would have just been patient, that maybe something could have been worked out, you know? But now he's in TNA. It might be too late. Garrett Osborne, bro, appreciate the 5 in advance. I'm watching the Royal Rumble at my local movie theater next Saturday. All right, you're going to be doing the movie theater thing. That's fun. Yeah, Nick Aldis was Magnus in TNA, so who the fuck did Andrade beat tonight on, on Collision? He's facing somebody named Magnus. I don't even know who that is. Zane, 5 more. Next season for WWE and Real will be John Cena's retirement tour. I thought we kind of saw that. Oh, no, you're right. We did. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. We'll get the Saturday night's main event match. I'm thinking it kind of all ended at SummerSlam, but no, it was December. So, yeah, that'll be interesting just to see Cena wrapping it up and all of that. So that won't be too nauseating to watch. I can watch that one without being pissed. 5 more from Ryan. Truth said his new contract was a 4-year deal with 3 option years recently. Holy shit. Well, okay. If it's a 4-year deal with 3 option years, that means the option's up after the first, right? It's probably a 1-year deal guaranteed with 3 options after that. Who's the option? Him or WWE? Does WWE decide to opt in or out, or does Truth decide to opt in or out? I wonder how all that works. Ryan, I am going to be Saturday night's main event on Peacock. Still don't have a VPN. Still just don't think I need one. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm so anti-VPN. I just don't want something else to fucking learn a password for, you know, or something. I don't want to have an extra step. I don't want to have to like turn on my VPN before I turn something else on. You know, I'm lazy like that. I'm a lazy bitch, man. All right. Well, I think that's it. Y'all cool with taking a 30-minute break? We're going to be back less than that, actually, probably 25 minutes. We're going to be back for Saturday night's main event. So the link is already up over on the channel. You guys can save that right now. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, have a beverage, frosty beverage, maybe a quick little snack, and we're going to be back here to watch Saturday night's main event in just a few minutes. So thanks again for hanging out with us on the Wingy. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait until after tonight's show. And when we do the quick little recap tonight of Saturday night's main event, I'm going to add that to the end of this podcast for the audio. So I'll push out the podcast to the podcast feed tonight, so you can listen to this wherever podcasts are found. But I'm going to add tonight's little recap after the watch along of Saturday night's main event to this podcast, so you can kind of hear everything all at once. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you join us in just a few minutes for Saturday night's main event. It is going to be fun. I will catch y'all in less than 30 minutes. Peace.